time. Yep. Memed into existence. Today, it's a very special day. One of the streams I have been most excited for in my entire life. Today is the official first session, 0.5 of the unnamed Realms of Eldara stream game series. That's right. After nearly 4 years, people have been wondering, am I a real D&D streamer? The answer, of course, has always been no. Because as we learned on Reddit last week, or the week before, I don't fucking remember, but as we learned on Reddit, apparently you don't get to have real D&D opinions unless you play D&D publicly. So says the Redditorium. So there it is, man. So I have conned one of my very best friends into playing D&D with me on stream. That's right. That's right. The very first game is going to be a humble chronicle of the adventures of a very important character. An NPC you can go see in your game if you want to. An NPC that I've taken a while to finish the design for because I'm bad and I should feel bad. But now I have a reason. So that is right. I have convinced Fishy to play with me. And today we do some planning. So I think we need to start putting bets up. How long is it going to take for me to TPK Fishy? That's right. That's right. I'm thinking 4 sessions. 4 sessions. But regardless, so one thing I'm going to be doing going forward is I wanted to start making the Realms of Eldara accessible in a couple of ways. All right? I'm going to do it in 2 ways. 3 ways. 3 ways that I'm going forward. This is actually a pretty big announcement. So, Jacob, Jesus, thank you for the tier 1 for 17 months, bro. I appreciate that. Thanks, man. Thanks, bro. I appreciate that. What's going on? How you doing, Jacob? Thank you for that. So, I'm going to be making the Realms of Eldara opened up in 3 different ways. All right? The first is the adventure. So, if you want to play in Eldara, all the work I've been putting into it will be accessible. And that's on its way. We were in mid-development. The second, linear narrative, is important. So I've already started writing the very first Realms of Eldara linear story. Nope, not world building, not general bullshit, but an actual story set in the Realms of Eldara. A very important story I want to tell. So, and the third way is I want to start playing D&D on stream. And I've always been kind of nervous. I've always been kind of scared, you know, because I feel like a lot of people expect a lot out of an EBM. I'm a D&D art streamer, so assuredly I would have the greatest amount of art and assets and tokens and custom maps and full Dwarven Forge dioramas and everything. And I've been stressed out about that because I just don't have time for that. You know, between commissions and everything else, I feel like I never had time to do a D&D stream the way I really wanted to. But Fishy and I have been talking about doing something fun and small for a long time. And I recently got some nudges to just send it. We'll see what happens. So I need to give Fishy a call. We need to get Fishy's opinion on this. Fishy, I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna Discord. I'm gonna Discord you. It's gonna be dope. Where is that? There is it at. There it at. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Hello. Good morning.
Hi. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. Wait, it's afternoon for you, isn't it?
I mean, by like 9 minutes, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, fair. Hey.
Time is but a construction.
Thank you for playing D&D with me. I appreciate it. Thank you for agreeing for this.
I feel like it's like your joke kind of ended up like blindsiding you, though.
What joke? Oh, the meme about playing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Look, listen, listen. But I feel like that's the best way for it to go. You know, I feel like thinking about it too much. Because here's the thing. I listen. I don't know how you feel about your streams, but I've been feeling like I just want to do stuff that I want to do recently. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to like, I don't know. I just want to do stream projects that I want to do, and I want to like build stuff for the world, and it doesn't need to be perfect or whatever. It can just be like
Fishy
you know,
is here and all is
right?
well.
Perfectionism is awful and it sucks, and it sucks the life out of everything. Sometimes you just gotta fucking eat it.
Yeah. Yeah, so fuck it. Let's do our very first stream game. So I need a couple things. We need to figure some things out, okay? We need to do some world building today. We need to figure some shit out. We need to like jump in there with Runa's story. We need to jump in there with a place for her in the world, because I'm thinking we're gonna start a game in the Shattered Sea.
Okay.
So we need to have a whole plot plan. We need to name the game. We need to find some sort of, because here's the thing. Listen, let me complain about something first. Let me start this entire thing off by complaining, okay?
Okay.
I am so over all the cutesy D&D show names. I'm so fucking over them. You have no idea, man. Like, just all of the puns to do with like, you know, critical and dice rolling and proficiency and stats and dexterity and all these D&D terms that, like, I could name like 18 D&D shows off the top of my head that don't even exist, and probably 5 of them do, because it's so predictable.
I'm not a fan of puns, but I do understand like not wanting to use like the mechanics of the game to be the thing that determines the name of the game. Yeah.
It upsets me, you know.
Sorry.
Like I got friends in like Blackwater D&D. It's like, damn, bro, that sounds like you're about to do something serious. You're
in the goop.
you're listen, okay, all right, listen. You know, and I like the I don't it doesn't obviously need to be some, like, we're not playing Dark Souls here, okay? We're not.
If we were, fuck it.
I mean, we could.
I've actually never played a Dark Souls game.
That's not, dude, what? I thought you played Elden Ring on stream.
Yeah, but that's not actually a Dark Souls game. Most of all of the like
Isn't it?
Souls-like I've game. I mean, they are, but it doesn't have the same name. And it's different.
Okay, but it's the same company. It's the same fucking, like, it's a Dark Souls game, right?
Does it count? Because
Yes,
I've gotten yelled at before because by having the audacity of saying it counts.
I would just shove those nerds in a locker. That's so lockerable to me. You know, like someone adjusts their glasses and tries to correct you that the Dark Souls game is not, or the Elden Ring is not a Dark Souls game. That's a locker for them. So
I just need someone that's like twice my size and 3 times as muscly than me to go shove people in lockers for me all the time.
Yeah, me too. So we're not going to do it's not going to be a Dark Souls game. It is going to be a little bit, you know, it's going to be D&D. You like D&D, I like D&D. We're going to play some D&D. We're not going to worry about it being this like super dark, serious thing, because that is how you get Vampire the Masquerade.
Fair.
And have you ever,
is a dog, not a bat. That's true.
Have you ever played Vampire the Masquerade?
I have not. I've never had the glory of being invited to a Vampire the Masquerade game, but I have heard
that
some
sounds like
stories.
No, that sounds like some bullshit. You absolutely have been invited to Vampire the Masquerade game.
I haven't.
You went and you are just too terrified to tell anyone the story.
I wanted to be invited. I was never invited. Also, I see what you mean by saying for some reason the capture is fucky. It's very rude.
You know what? It was fine when I was on Streamlabs. I've done this shit on Streamlabs and it's fine. It's beautiful. On OBS, scuffed. I might have to go back.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
It's not your fault. It's VVO Ninja. I'm sure I'm doing something wrong, so I'm sure.
I probably am too. To be fair, we kind of like threw this together at the last minute, so.
Yes. If it is less competent.
YouTubers in chat know how to do it better. Reach out.
I should do for our game. Should I be in VTuber mode? What do you think?
I think you should do what you want.
Oh man, because I kind of want to make like a little like gremlin.
Oh, I can do that
Avatar
instead.
Or something.
Would you rather me?
You don't have to be gremlin. No, I think I should be gremlin. No, you don't. I'm not redeeming channel points for gremlin mode in your stream. Okay.
Give me a second. I'll be right back.
Okay. All right. Bye. Okay. All right. Jesus Christ. That's not a gremlin. That's just that's a fucking Nendoroid. All right. You're supposed to be a Astral Knight, okay? You are going to be the very first person that anyone... You are not the first person to ever play an Astral Knight, but you're going to be the first person that anyone ever sees play an Astral Knight. You have to be a emblem of nobility and dignity. The seriosity of your character has to be unadmonishable for eons to come.
You really picked the wrong person for that kind of a role here. Let me switch back in,
I did. Holy fuck, man. What are we doing here?
You want me to be serious? It made me small.
Dude, okay. Wait, did it?
It did. It's okay. I fixed it. Don't worry.
All right, thank you. Because I was not going to fix it. You know? That's baby jail. Oh, yeah. Sorry, the locker video. I forgot it's baby jail.
The locker is indeed baby jail.
Yeah, all right. At the very least, Evan needs a DM screen in front of him to get, and Goldie needs some math rocks. It's true. We need to figure out what to do.
Rocks.
You knew math. What'd you get? Did we talk about this?
I was gifted math rocks for my birthday.
Right. Okay,
They're
yeah, I saw them. Yeah,
they're pink and shiny.
I'm gonna make Ella always makes me a new set of dice for each game, which is really, it's not as cool as it sounds. You know,
I disagree.
No, here's the thing, man. I am not a dice goblin. I like having a set of dice. I'm a dice minimalist enjoyer, okay? I like having a set of dice that I take with me through every game, through every adventure. This is my set of dice, and you know, I'm good with that. I'm married to a dice maker.
I love all of the math rocks. I have a little cup, and every now and then when I get bored, I'll just...
I mean, look, I am. There's some ADHD shit in there somewhere. I don't know.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you think that people with ADHD are more likely to have a crippling dice addiction?
Yes.
Because I've wondered that, honestly. I don't want to listen. I don't want to. Okay.
It's a comorbidity. Okay, leave me alone.
No, man. Listen. Okay, so there's a certain type of person that I meet at the conventions and markets that Ella goes to that is super excited about her dice. And man, those people are on a whole nother wavelength than me, right? They will approach and say 15 things to me before I have a chance to ask them how they're doing or whatever, right? Like, yeah, dude, relatable. I can't keep up with that. Like, I feel like streaming, I don't have to like necessarily respond to somebody's energy.
That's
you know?
Fair. You really do in person.
It's more exhausting. I don't know. I just feel like I'm not living up to a standard or whatever, right?
Does streaming make you tired or does it energize you?
Really depends. Depends on a couple of factors.
Fair. It can't really be one or the other. Yeah. You're just giving off real introvert energy right now, and I'm just feeling out the waters.
No, I don't, dude. Here's the thing. I've always been accused as being a terminal extrovert. Okay, I've always been. Well, yeah, but the problem is that I'm an extrovert that gets tired, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're an introvert."
Oh, yeah, that's a thing.
And I'm like, "Stop! I don't need a fucking label, bro. I'm just."
Isn't there like a between thing now?
There's like an omnivert and an ambivert or whatever. You know, I don't know, man. I don't know how to. It's one of those, I don't like to label myself with things like that because I feel like whenever I personally label myself one way or another, it sets a limitation or an expectation for me.
I don't like to label myself either.
Okay, fucking unmedicated, diagnosed late stage ADHD neurodivergent fucking.
It's terminal,
holy
bitches.
Shit, god damn it. This is not gonna go well, man. I swear, I don't even need to make. Look, I've thought of this. I don't need to make NPCs for this game. Okay, because I'm just gonna put you somewhere in the world, and you're gonna find like 8 people to talk to. That I'm gonna have to like create on the spot. So like, what is the point even of me designing NPCs for a game where?
If you don't give me NPCs, who the fuck will I adopt?
And
then they'll go on my adventures with me.
That's true, actually. That happens a lot in my games. Is that a me thing, or is that just the people that play with me thing?
I don't know. If a DM like hands me like on a silver platter a cute little or a scrungly little NPC, I'm just like, that's mine now.
So okay,
I will befriend them, and they will come on my journey with me.
All right, listen. We need to have it. We need to have our first conversation about your backstory here, right? Because of that. All right. So the class is not public yet because I haven't finished a couple things, including the art. Which fuck it, I'm just gonna drop it at some point in time. But the astro. No, stop. Jesus, they're not cringe. This is important. Okay, if we don't get the mechanics right, then what is Thorkin gonna correct for me? Okay. So, one of the things that comes with the Astral Knight is a heroic background. This is a hero class, all right? I'm using the term hero class because that's something they used in World of Warcraft 20 years ago when Wrath of the Lich King came out, and I've always thought it's cool. A hero class isn't better, it's just more unique, has more flavor to it, and has more restrictions behind it. So,
spicy.
For an Astral Knight, I've thought about giving them their own background. I'm actually not thought about it. I am giving their own background. Because the thing is, like, you can pick up the sword and become a fighter after whatever adventure you've been on. You know, you can learn arcane arts after you've become the first Viscount of the ancient vampire plane and wedded the merfolk princess only to deceive, you know, the evil father plane of the plane of water, you know, to become the hero of the Who Asked kingdom, so that now you land in this village as a level 1 fucking character. Okay. So that's not what I said. That's not what I fucking said. You know exactly what I said. Okay. So anyway, it's harder with knights because knights are trained to be astral knights. They are taken from the sage orders as those who show proficiency with a natural connection to the astral aura, meaning that they have a history that is them as an astral knight. So
I do. So I'm glad you brought that up because I don't know. Would Runa still technically be like considered an astral knight? Like, I don't know if the knights would consider her a knight anymore, or like, yeah, that one ran away. Like, would she be like a dark stain on the knighthood actually?
So my opinion on it is always, I will create the rules. My players are the exceptions. So
okay, my opinion on it is I don't want to throw out something that doesn't mesh with the world, so I want to work together on it.
Okay, well then you can't have a spear. Okay.
That's why I was asking.
Okay, well, do you want a spear?
It can work. That's what I'm trying to figure out with you, Stinky.
Okay, well then you either went on your cool special adventure already to find your spear, and now you are the only knight in recent memory that has ever wielded an astral steel weapon that is not a blade, which I am totally fine with, or you get a fucking sword. So it's whatever you want. You don't need to ask me about it. I'll make it work.
Well, because like you know way more about the world and how the knights work and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't.
So it would be incredibly unusual, but I'm willing to do it. You know, it's your character. I want you to be invested in it, you know?
I think it's the idea of having like a spear that can also function as a staff is cool, but also I understand that like just because an idea is cool doesn't necessarily mean that it works well for a TTRPG.
My only
especially for a player character.
I'll give you my only concern, okay? My only concern is that if people see an astral knight using a spear as the first astral knight they ever see in a game on the channel that I'm running, then that sort of goes against my whole astral knights only use swords.
Okay, then how about she used to be an astral knight and she left the order? Fixed.
Perfect. Sure. So she's kind of on the outside of the order then. So with the background, because the first thing we need to talk about based on the what we were talking about, the background is like I kind of want to give them.
I should make notes.
Just fine. Just get one of your mods to watch the stream and make notes for you. That's what they're for, right?
Damn.
Right? Wait. Right? No. Okay. All right. Well, fucking get wrecked for me, I guess. So astral knight backgrounds. One of the things that I want to do for them is I want to give astral knights one of and I haven't nailed the system down entirely, but that's what we're doing. We're building and developing. So
yeah, this is here to be scuffed and fun. And if anybody's expecting polish, you're in the wrong place, gamer.
I don't think a single person that's ever followed me on Twitch expects polish, so that's probably fine. Yeah, true. Holy shit, true.
Wait a second. If they're not expecting polish, why do they always have to point out the scuff?
It makes me relatable. right?
I guess. I don't know.
I'm a brilliant artist. I'm living the dream. I get commission
true.
requests like Andrew Tate gets, you know, women or whatever. I don't fucking know. I'm going to the gym. I'm strong. I'm handsome. Like, how am I relatable? Right?
You're
So
picking up
the
big,
thing that
heavy
I
things,
have to
it's
do,
true.
the thing that I have to do has to be scuffed and shitty, so therefore people can relate to me. Because otherwise, you know, it's like a whole
But I don't
issue.
have any redeemable qualities to balance out that scale.
I'm
an anime girl on the internet. What do
you have
crippling ADHD.
this. No, I will show you your relatable quality.
Oh no.
All right. You are at the very
I said
least
redeemable, not relatable.
Oh, redeemable. Oh no. Okay. All right. Sorry. I misread. My bad. Yeah. My bad. Hold on. Let me just get that down. Hold on. Okay. Okay. Back to the.
Cow on the beach.
No, you're the fish in the ocean behind the sad cow on the beach. All right. Come on. Let's not. I would never refer to you as a fucking cow. So the four cool. The thing about the background that I'm thinking about is I want to give them something that makes that contextualizes their role in the order or their adventures on behalf of the order or something. So I'm thinking about calling them something along the lines of noble quests or something, or tasks or duties or whatever, something that is a burden that you bear that increases your cool factor as to what you kind of vibe you are. So I'm thinking about one of them is like you are supposed to retrieve something. Like your job in life is that there is something that not like your only purpose, but like in the background buzzing behind you, there is something that is like you are supposed to go get this thing or do whatever. And I haven't figured out the three of them. Kind of figured out that one a little bit. And then I have kind of a loose idea for the other two. But one of them is you are supposed to train an apprentice, right? Because in order for a knight to become fully knight in the order, they have to sort of apprentice under a knight and learn the ways. I like the idea of that sort of oral tradition, the sort of idea of gurus and like the master learner, the student. It kind of is bringing in that monastic side of the astral sages that I like. So if you wanted a minion, because Ella, this is partly designed for Ella, because she in D&D games is at her peak when she has a minion.
I've never had a minion before.
So you never had a squire or you've never picked noble and chose retainers?
Nope.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
I haven't actually played that many like D&D games. I've been playing D&D for a long time, but I haven't played.
It's
like
been long
I think
term.
I've played like 5 characters.
Oh my god! What if you hate the way I play D&D? Oh no! I didn't think
Okay,
about
well,
this.
I've already played D&D with you before with Ella, and
that
I thought
was
that
like
was great.
That was like scuffed. Okay, all right.
But that's
Great.
I like scuff.
All right, fine.
You
So
don't have to be scuff.
if you wanted a minion, you could have one in the form of a squire, right? Because this is if you wanted it, Ella took the squire route, the master apprentice route for her character in the game we played last week, and it was about as Ella as you could imagine. All right, she was just very pleased with her minion, and then she went and bought dogs, which was weird. That was her first act. She like joins the party. It's this like big dramatic astral knight that shows up with her blade and her duty and her sworn mission, and then they're like, okay, well, we have the rest of the day to kill before we hear back from this person. What do you want to do? And she's like, I need to go to the market. And they're like, oh shit, the big astral knight's going to go on to the market to buy some important supplies. And it's like, what are you going to get? And she's like, I need to go to somewhere where you can buy animals, beasts of burdens, pets, things like that. I'm like, yeah, there's definitely an exotic. She's like, I'm looking for a small terrier. So she bought she bought Yuna and named her Yuna. So now that was her first act in the D&D game was to find Yuna, and she already had a minion. Her squire's name was Embra Nu, who is a brand new race that I haven't actually even talked about on stream, that are basically just blue. They're basically because it's the wrong kind of blue. It's the wrong kind of blue, because in every good sci-fi story, what do you have? Hot blue chicks.
People.
exactly. Well, okay, we're in the same realm here. But we're hidden across the different maybe bad parts of the field. But yeah. So you could if you want a minion, you could have a minion. You could have an apprentice or somebody that squires for you, watches your camp, does whatever, follows behind you. If you want a canonical minion, you could. I don't know if it'd be a good idea to give you a gremlin or not.
You can't really give a gremlin.
Yeah.
I feel like if you try to give a gremlin, they just end up becoming like the responsible, level-headed one.
Well, did you ever watch the full Umaru anime?
I've never seen it, actually.
Excuse me, what? You've never seen it?
I've never seen it, no. I just know all the gifts.
You hold on. We have a problem. We have an impasse here. Okay. Normally, I am not one of those obnoxious people that's just like, what? You've never seen Star Wars or whatever? You know when people are like that, you're like, oh yeah, I've never seen, like, I don't know, The Godfather. And they're like, oh my God, how have you never seen that movie?
That either.
Yeah, fuck that shit. But like, people get so offended or whatever that they have, but I'm just surprised that you, of every single human I've ever encountered, have not seen Umaru.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
I didn't know what the name was, and I was too afraid to ask. Like, I knew that the girl's name was Umaru, but I didn't know the show's name was Umaru.
Basically. Okay, well, we need to remedy that. So that's I feel like it would be therapeutic for you to see how, you know.
I'll just put it on the screen the whole time. Go, she's just like me, for real.
Basically, yeah. No, I because like, I married Umaru, and people don't believe me. Because the whole thing is that Umaru on the outside is this like perfect student. You know, she's like the perfect, you know, pleasant, well-mannered, good grade, athletic anime, you know, hero. But nobody knows except for her older brother that she lives with that she's actually a gremlin sack of shit. You know, that would play games and wouldn't shower unless somebody else like prodded her to. So no one believes me that Ella is that creature. All right, that I'll go downstairs and she'll be like under a blanket with like, I don't know, fucking messy hair, like with a bottle of cola, just like making dice or some shit. Everyone thinks that she's sitting at her desk like some sort of like proper posh, you know, duchess or some shit, you know, crafting her dice with a level of elegance.
I feel like me and Ella might have more in common than I thought.
I'm really scared because Ella said like, oh, once in a while I can jump in on your D&D game here and there and maybe like play with you guys and whatnot. And I'm like, sure, you could be like a reoccurring character. I would be worried about having you and Ella in a D&D game long term.
Why?
Because you would find dumb shit to pursue. I would create this. No, but I would create this grand plot. Dude, it'd be like, imagine fucking Gandalf comes to the hobbits and said, you're going to Mordor. We're going to take the ring and whatever and rescue the world. And they decide instead that they're gonna create some sort of like, I don't know, like hamster rescue or some shit in Brill. You know? And they spend 3 weeks in Brill, like rescuing hamsters off the mean streets or some shit to like build those fucking like little hamster hotels people make out of cardboard or whatever.
Just giant rats.
They're just fucking rats at this point.
True.
I have to wrangle my players sometimes, honestly.
Doesn't every DM?
No, some DMs have like a player group. I've seen this shit. Where everyone is super serious, they're on their way, they're like, you know, like I've seen this, okay? I've seen this in person, and I don't know what it's like though, because I've never played with that.
I can be either of those things.
Yes.
You just have to tell me what kind of game we're playing. Do you want to do a real serious thing? I can do a real serious thing.
I'm scared of that because I'm terrified of what kind of trauma you will activate for everyone watching. Like,
get ready to chat. We're going on a trauma train.
Past life, repressed memory. Like, oh, I didn't know my father dressed me up in you know, fucking conductor's clothes and made me perform on stage. But now I just feel like I have that memory because, you know, I have this like public humiliation phobia now for some reason or some shit, you know? Like I'm worried that you'll just invent stuff for people. So
Do you want me to be serious or do you want me to be silly?
I say we tread the line.
Got it.
Every good
Okay.
D&D game, I think, is one part Lord of the Rings, one part Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at. So okay, so we're gonna make Runa a former Knight of the Order.
Yeah. But now, did she leave or did she get kicked out?
That's the question I was about to ask you. Because one doesn't simply leave the order casually, you know?
Okay, what happens then?
Well,
For me and the audience.
The thing is, typically when somebody is like joins the order, they sort of swear an oath to this goal of protecting the elder monuments of the world, for protecting the astral sage orders. They are sworn to this service for life.
Is this a magical oath that like has like binding? No, okay,
no,
so
it's cultural. Yeah, the whole thing with the Astral Knights that I think makes them really cool is that they have such a strong identity. But when you create something with strong identity, you also sort of restrict it a little bit. You know, when you think about certain, I guess, organizations or orders and TV shows or history or whatever, you know, what made the Knights Templar so compelling as a story, or makes the Freemasons such an interesting, you know, history, or what makes the in a fantasy sense the Men of Gondor or whatever, is that they have this strong identity that you're like, oh, that's cool, I want to be a part of that. And similarly in Final Fantasy 14, I don't know how many class stories you've played, but they do a really good job of like making your class feel like you have unique and identified. Yeah, like what class do you mean? You have no idea what job you made in Final Fantasy 14, do you?
No, okay.
You've no fucking clue. You're just pushing buttons.
I'm a scholar, but I play summoner a lot because people, usually me and my boyfriend will go in for tank DPS when I prefer to play scholar because I like to be healer. So I usually end up playing summoner more than scholar, but I prefer scholar.
Okay.
Yes, part of it is because I don't want to level 2 different classes, but also I just really like all the pets.
Of course. Yeah, I should have known. Okay, well, they have
summoner class.
The class stories have really strong identity, and the class design, I think that's really good. But in creating the strongest of identities, I think you also create the strongest of restrictions, right?
Oh, definitely. But I think that that's one thing that's really interesting, because then that allows for the story of like somebody who ended up like joining a thing and didn't mesh with it, or that like they changed over time or they grew out of that kind of thing. Just like you have like the strict noble family with a rebellious like youngster that goes off on adventures.
Yeah.
It's another avenue of telling a similar type of story.
Yeah. So do you want Runa to have more of a favorable or a bit of more of an adversarial relationship with her past, with the Order? What do you like playing as a character?
I like adversarial as a player.
Okay.
But I know that tends to like potentially create problems like within the thing.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So basically the story is then, how did you get from a sworn knight in the Order all the way to an exiled or deposed or whatever knight that is using different, like, I'm thinking the thing that makes sense to me is something along the lines of maybe like at some point in time on your adventures, there was some sort of thing that you discovered, lead you followed, mystery you uncovered, that led you to this very rare item, that part of your story is based around the uniqueness of the fact that you have this spear. Because astral steel is not supposed to be outside of the Order. No one's supposed to have it. It's kind of it's like the Mandalorians in Beskar. They don't let other people mess around with it. So if you found an astral steel weapon, that's like a big deal, you know? So that would have been...
It's gonna be like one of those anime stories where like the person who's not supposed to stumbles upon like the magic item that becomes bound to them, and then they can't do anything about it. And everybody's like, God damn it, that's our thing. No, you can't have that.
Yeah, but the problem is when you say that, I don't know why I just think of Konosuba. I have no idea why, and I'm just so terrified that this game's gonna turn into Konosuba.
I haven't seen Konosuba either.
You play D&D and watch anime.
I know.
Okay.
I'm getting caught up on Shield Hero right now, okay?
Okay, that's not better.
That's
acceptable. That's fine. That's fine. I don't know. I don't know if I can handle Shield Hero after I read the manga.
Oh
so.
no, I'm not expecting Shield Hero in this D&D campaign, please no. It's not one of those games, please.
Yeah, no, you're not trying to humiliate the princess or whatever.
Yeah, no,
it's not some revenge story that we need to vividly and graphically RP out no, so I'm good for that. It's all good. I'm
Could you imagine me being that edgy though?
So
I would not be able to hold it long term.
The problem is I could though. I could. I think you have a dark side when it comes to
okay,
D&D.
just because I listen to fucking My Chemical Romance.
No, it's not. Listen, that's because you're 30, okay? Not because you have a dark side.
I'm not
all right.
30 yet.
You're basically 30.
I still got a few years. Okay, just because
you're
you're boomer doesn't mean you
whatever.
have to decide I'm boomer.
Oh, God. Dude, I'm turning 34 next month. I'm turning 34 next month. I don't know what to do, bro.
Everybody point and say boomer now.
I don't know. Dude, last night I played Age of Empires 2. Like, what am I doing, man? I'm like marching cavalry across the fucking Israeli sands to go take Barbarossa to the Dome on the Rock, and I'm like mounting trebuchets upon the walls of the city like I'm some fucking tactical, like, dude, I that is the most old man hobby I have is Age of Empires 2. I can't, but like people don't realize this. When if you are a man, you know, there's the joke that if you're a man, when you turn 30, you need to either get into war history, smoked meats, sports, or cars, right? That's like when you're 30, you have to pick one if you're a dude. But I think if you're a nerd and a dude, when you hit your 30s, you need to assume your first old man nerd hobby. And I think that's Warhammer 40k.
I was about to say, at least you didn't pick up Warhammer.
Warhammer 40, dude, Warhammer 40k.
It's so expensive.
Yeah, but like the lore and shit. Oh my god, wait, I did.
Like the minis.
No, I'm not gonna paint minis alone in my fucking garage or whatever. Just like.
Who said you had to paint them alone?
Who am I gonna paint
Your
minis
wife's
with?
a dice maker.
I'm not gonna paint minis with Ella because I'll just get mad. I'll be like, you're doing it wrong. Like I'm not fun to do art stuff with. Okay? like I have, dude, okay.
You need a little wall so you can't see what each other is doing and you're just gonna hang out in the same room.
Dude, I realized years ago I cannot play Minecraft with friends. I just can't. It was when I was playing with my friend Yavuz and Ella and a couple other friends, and he made the ugliest house. So I spent 3 days on survival mode making a mountain in between the two of us so I didn't have to see his ugly fucking house from my beautifully crafted castle base, okay? I don't play nice when it comes to creative projects, and I know it. So I don't.
That is the most white picket fence, like upper middle class bullshit I have ever heard in my entire life.
If he made a cobblestone house with a straight what do you want me to do? Ruin my view?
Your property value.
Dude, listen.
What do you do?
I crafted an entire view. I was not gonna let his dumbass ruin it for me. All right, like, come on.
Your property value.
Dude, could you imagine how toxic I'd be if any of my players were artists that made art of their characters and brought to the game for me?
God, it won't do that. Understandable.
No, you have to because you're an artist and we have to run this experiment. So I expect it. I expect it.
No, because you've already proven yourself as a judgmental person, and I'll cry.
Over Minecraft, yes. Yeah, over Minecraft, absolutely. I don't play nice in Minecraft. No, I'd be nice about it if I only painted minis. I would be. It's fine. We build Gundams together, so it's kind of like painting minis, you know?
I mean, it's the construction aspect of it, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine, I guess. I'm not, but no. Every guy needs to choose. Hold on. Every guy needs to choose between Warhammer, Crusader Kings, or Age of Empires.
Okay. What's the difference?
Okay, listen. So Warhammer.
I could say like 3 words, and you're just so triggered.
Dude, listen. Warhammer is if you're wealthy.
Got it.
Crusader Kings is if you're smart. Okay. Age of Empires is if you think you're smart.
Which one do you play again?
Age of Empires. Yeah, I know. I'm fully aware, okay, of my place in the like hierarchy of nerds in their 30s, okay? You know? So, what if neither, Jesus, if neither you play D&D a third day of the week. So, yeah, Crusader Kings or Age of Empires is man, that's you just settled into your 60s. Like it is retirement for you for the rest of your days. You know, you just go off in the sunset.
I told Blaze the other day that in the retirement home we're still playing League together. So,
dude, have you thought about that? Have you thought about how cool millennials are gonna be when we're old?
Oh, it's gonna be a thing.
Like we're gonna be sitting there raging over League. You absolutely know there's gonna be dudes.
Nursing homes having to invest in better internet.
They will. What do you mean? Can I imagine? They absolutely. You and I will not tolerate bad a bad connection. We will go to the inner nursing home. They'll start advertising. They have Google Fiber transmitted SpaceX like digital whatever. And also, we're gonna be so degenerate in VR. Right, when we're all too old to like walk around and shit, we're gonna be playing fucking Skyrim in VR in like 60 years. We're still gonna be playing Skyrim and like World of Warcraft Classic and shit.
Do I have to play Skyrim?
No, you can play VR chat and get canceled, but it's up to you. It's whatever.
Thanks.
Whatever you personally choose. You can't say that. D&D nerds love Skyrim for some reason, okay? Even though it looks shit.
D&D nerds. I am also a D&D nerd, but I fucking hate Skyrim.
What did Skyrim do to you?
It's okay.
Okay.
I like games with story, or games that don't have story but are obvious about it. I don't like games that are like, oh yeah, have our fun immersive world, and then you go down a storyline and it's fucking, yeah, there's an ocean of goddamn things to do, and then it's 2 inches deep and there's no depth. And the second you finish a fucking quest line, they go back to saying the same 2 lines that they said beforehand, and then everyth's just done. And you're like, oh cool, there's no like satisfying resolution or change in the world. Or anything. And it annoys me. And then everyone's like, well, you should mod the game. I'm like, well, that's not saying the same thing as the game is amazing. That's saying that the game is a good blank canvas.
So who hurt you? Like, who made you play Skyrim when you were young that just did this to you?
No one made me. I went out of my way to like, I just found it one day and I was like, oh, I don't really like this. And then I shared that opinion on the internet and then everyone hated me forever.
Oh, they came after you, didn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing.
This is way before like VTubing or anything, yeah.
If anyone ever comes at you for not being a fan of Skyrim, what I've realized is that you can point out that they're old and that shuts them up. Because there's not a single person under the age of 27 years old that even knows what Skyrim is. So
yeah, that's fair at this point.
Yeah. I okay. I even said like at some point in time, like, hey, it'd be cool if there's like a Skyrim Magic the Gathering set years ago, and someone said, what's Skyrim? And I said, oh, it was a game, you know, like Elder Scrolls games. They're like, no. I'm like, oh, it's a game for like Xbox. And they're like, oh, like Fortnite. And I was like, okay, well, all right, listen, I need to have a conversation with the parents of
I saw a thing a while ago where somebody was at like a games expo and they were one of the people like in charge of a stand, and so like they had like the computer with the keyboard and the mouse, and on day 1 like they didn't get a whole bunch of attention, and so on day 2 they put a controller alongside and they got way more people coming.
Oh my god, yes, I heard this. Yeah, keep going. I know this is Pirate Software.
Oh, was it Pirate Software?
Yeah, please share the story for those who haven't heard it.
So the whole thing of it was that like younger generations like not really knowing how to use like a mouse and keyboard well, because everything is either touchscreen or controller based. So they just like nobody came to play the game when they had to use a mouse and keyboard.
That's just so fucking depressing. That's so sad, man.
Could be worse.
I don't know. Do you think VR is gonna take over D&D at some point in time?
I think it would be so fucking cool.
I think it's gonna do it, to be honest. Like,
it would be so cool. It's so expensive though. I think.
Really?
I think it will in certain circles, but I don't think it will for everybody, just because of like the space requirements, the cost of the technology, and like mostly the space, to be honest.
Oh man, I feel like it's coming down a lot though. Like I feel like in 10 years, VR is going to be the primary place that people play TTRPGs. You know, in my
I don't know,
gut, I feel like the
because
immersion is so high, you know?
there's so many people that get insanely motion sick, though.
From what I understand, that's getting better. Is that for
It
some
is
way the
for
tech is
some-
improving, and hopefully
It
maybe that
depends
makes
on
it
the way
accessible
the
for
game,
everyone.
like movement in the game works, really.
That's true. Yeah. I think it'd still be sick though. I mean,
I think it would be so fucking cool, but I don't think it's going to be the default that this is just how everybody plays.
yeah.
I think it's going to be like the people that are able to afford I think the space requirement is the big one, genuinely. And then the free time plus but I mean, if you're playing on D&D already, you already have the free time. Yeah.
That's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think the space requirement is the big limiting factor.
Yeah, you might be right about that. I don't know. I saw this cool stuff that Disney was developing that was like this like meter by a couple feet by a couple feet trackpad thingy that like you could walk
The
on
big circle thing.
and had like the rollers or whatever. I don't know. That I think I've been waiting for something like that to be released, that you can put down your little like DDR mat in the middle of your room or some shit. And
I think that would be really cool. But I think
walk
that
around.
it's gonna take just like VR's already been a thing for so long, and now it's just really starting to become affordable. Like, think about how much more time it's going to take for all those extra like peripherals that actually make it doable to become affordable.
I'm hopeful though, because I want to see everyone's degenerate VR models in my D&D game ruining my immersion. So I have another thing to complain about.
I want the anime headset that just like transports your consciousness into the other world, so we can all get trapped there.
So if we get trapped in an anime MMO universe, I am going to need somebody to start a bounty hunting guild with me, where we can go murder players. So we're going to be a PK
I don't think
guild.
I want to do that,
because if we're the PK guild, then we can't be PK'd.
It puts like huge targets on your back.
Okay.
I want to be the overpowered witch that lives deep in the woods away from everybody and just makes her little farm.
So you don't want the game to end?
No.
When they're like, oh shit, we gotta get to the top floor to win the whatever, and if we beat the last boss, everyone gets to like log out or some shit. You're like, nope.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Nope,
thanks.
y'all come down, man. I got my house in the forest.
This shit? I live in America. You know how much it costs to go to the doctor's office? Nah. Healing magic. I'm good.
Oh, that's true, actually. Shit. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Dude, we are definitely going to be porting our consciousness to computers at some point in time.
It's gonna be great. Can't
and we're
wait.
gonna play the best fucking D&D anyone has ever seen.
Yeah.
It's gonna be made by our computer AI overlords, you know, in our dystopian Matrix world, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, with Mark Zuckerberg personally DMing your game or some shit. It's gonna be good. I'm excited for it. But until we have an AI overlord, unfortunately, you're stuck with me. So,
I don't think that's really an unfortunate thing. I'm having fun.
We don't even know where you're from.
Eh?
We don't even have a name
I thought you said that
for.
all of the dog girls were from like a little valley between the mountains or something.
So they are, but they're not all. There are males present in this society. Okay.
I never said there weren't. That's something you threw out there.
But you said all the dog girls are from this, implying that is like a uniquely. Okay. They have
dog girls reproduce asexually. In case
they have. They just eat so much. I don't know, nacho cheese or whatever, that they just split in half one day like a cell and divide into two smaller versions.
It's a cheese-based reproductive system,
It's a 7-Eleven based culture where they get so much free cheese when they go there for nachos. I don't know. They just mix right with their G Fuel, and then one day they just twig out and spawn another version of them. So
damn, that's real rough.
Okay. All right. So I don't have a place for the homeland for the dog folk just yet.
That's fine. We can
but
figure it
they're
out
going
later.
to be a small tribe, a small group that is not one of the main races that is sort of printed in the book. Runa is going to be a uniqueness. Runa is going to be, and this is going to be a reference for people who know a lot of World of Warcraft, so 38-year-old men with little to no accomplishments in their life like me. The dog folk are going to be my Pandaren. All right, they're going to be a reference in the back of texts, in the back of tomes of lore, that discuss this like legendary mythological, do they even exist? Like, no one knows, man. Have you ever seen one of them? So this game's gonna be a little bit weird as far as like setting a premise for things. You know, we're gonna have
so NPCs are gonna be like, "What the fuck are you?" all the time. Got it. I'm excited.
Not always, okay? Because I've decided. Listen,
I'm listening.
I have decided that I cannot defeat certain evils in this world. I am but a mortal man. And although I think it is good to strive to be a greater version of yourself, to aspire as you look upon Michelangelo's statue of David and wonder if there is more to your being and potential as a human than you are currently, and strive for that. But I am not arrogant. I understand that I will never defeat the furries. So I must...
Sometimes you just gotta hit him with the Woo XD nuzzle.
You definitely don't have to do that, okay? That is not the Reddit post that I want to make out of this game, okay?
That's fair. Oh yeah, you're a part of like I don't really use Reddit like at all.
I go on Reddit once a week when I'm done drawing for the day and I want to stretch or whatever, and I want to make fun of people's problems in D&D games not actually being problems, like invented issues. Because I find that 90% of the "here's the problem with my D&D game" posts on Reddit are invented issues that are more hilarious for me to read than it probably is for them to be a part of. But regardless, I'm going to enjoy it. So,
sometimes people just need a place to bitch about stupid things to make their problems feel less relevant.
I think so. Like I think that people are probably like aware of it in the middle of it, you know, complaining about whatever, because we love to complain about shit, man. That's like, I think,
like as a human species,
I think it, yeah. I think it's like,
you gotta get it out there.
It's like, I don't know. It's like social, like our evolutionary biology has like demanded that we bitch about stuff. And even if it doesn't, here's the thing. It's not that we have to have something to complain about. It just, we just have to complain. If it's a legitimate complaint, great. And if not, it's fine. We'll make it up.
Yeah,
So.
It's actually really interesting to look at it linguistically. Like there's like really interesting, actually, I guess that's more anthropology. But like there have been some really interesting studies about looking at more like cut off smaller groups, like just like throughout the world. I think one of the studies was done somewhere in like Eastern Europe, where like women had a lot more like restrictions on them within the society, and an anthropologist and her husband ended up like moving there in order for her to do her research studies. And in it, of course, like they're from like America, so she's acting the way that she always has, and because like she wasn't conforming to like the things that she was supposed to do like as a woman within their like societal like culture and views, she was getting text messages from numbers that she had never met, pretending to be people that she was having an affair with the hope that her husband would see them and that they would end up having problems because she was refusing to like conform to her societal expectations. It was really wild to see.
That's like some shit you see on Twitter.
Yeah, it is.
That's some fucking Twitter shit right there. That's like some George Not Found garbage or whatever.
This was like in the 80s, I think.
Damn,
so like this
bro.
is like, yeah.
That was the first. Damn. Okay. All right. That I wonder if you could study like you know, there are a few isolated cultures or tribes or whatever peoples anymore to study, but I wonder if you could just go to subreddits and now just, you know, find these isolated communities like obscure anime fans and study them in that same sort of way.
Absolutely.
You know, their cultures and their traditions.
The thing is that most of them aren't like segregated in the ways that like people are geographically. Oh,
I think they are. I think that they are when you have somebody living in his parents' basement that, you know, Ubers food to his house. He lives on an island in an ocean, basically.
Stop talking about me like that.
So I never said you live in your parents' basement, okay? I'm
true.
fully
we don't
aware
have basements in my area.
that you are. Oh, I forgot about that. You guys can't afford basements.
No, it's just the water table's too high. They flood.
Yeah, no, it's fine. If I mean, sure, but like, you know, you just build another house on top of it. You just build your basement above ground. That's what you do if you're wealthy enough, right?
Isn't that just an attic?
No, because you built the house on top of the basement.
Okay, so the main floor.
Well, no, you replaced the main floor with the basement. So
What's the difference between a main floor and a basement if the basement isn't subterranean?
where do you keep cosplayers after you go to the anime conventions?
In the hotel room.
Well, it's the difference between you and people who play Crusader Kings. So
oh, true. I haven't unlocked that part of my brain.
No, that's not.
You have to teach me the way so then I can move up in the societal ladder. It's true. It's true.
Got it. Okay, I can do that for you. Okay, so the route is gonna be from this place. Now I want, because I can't defeat the furries, I need to give the furries room. I figured this is my strategy for doing a good world building exercise that is ultimately geared for people to tell their own stories within. Now, I feel like the same rules apply whether or not I'm trying to make a world that I can get Spielberg to make a movie in, or if I can make a world that, you know, Garthen is going to want to play a character in. You need to have the same, I feel like, freedoms and systems in place to make it malleable enough for them. So part of that is rather than restricting and saying like, oh, I only have, you know, here's my full world map. Like, I'm very reluctant to do a full world map and just define what every single area looks like forever. I'm very reluctant to say these are the only people you can find on Teleria, or the only things that exist. You know?
Make an in-world, like in-universe world map then. Because then it's like, hey, we haven't really explored, like, just like the ancient, like, maps of, like, our world.
Yes. Yes, that's what...
That would be really cool.
All of the maps I make are in-world, like,
this is what
props.
They think their world
yeah.
looks like.
So actually, like you might think this is kind of interesting, being a linguistics nerd, but
That's me, hi.
But I
like the way people use talkies.
I thought it was very clever, okay, by doing this. So the maps I had, the perspective of the map maker was a person who is hired by a noble in Stonemark, which is a primarily human kingdom from the New World, basically. So I had some of the Elvish maps. They have excuse me, Elvish words. So like Lorm means city, so Lormala is a city, you know. Asha is like a large city, temple city type thing, like a religious city. So there's Asha Dore and Asha Lore and Asha Ithari, and then I have certain words like Lorm can also mean port city. It means city by ocean, so it can be a port or not. But so you have Lorm Asasha, which is a city here, but then you have Port Wisp, which is also a Elvish city. And I intermingle sometimes these English sort of words in with the in-world words, because if this port is well known, then if you're a map maker, you would say like, oh, I'm going to put this port city on the map because everybody knows it's Port City. But then you sail into it and you like, oh, hey, I don't know the name of this city. What's it called? And you ask a local and they say Lorm Asasha, right? So it's a mixture of Elvish and English, basically, depending on how well known a city or area is. Like the elves don't call this area the Windwoods. They call it whatever the Elvish term for the Windwoods is. But the Windwoods is very known or well known across the world, so they would just name it that and not bother asking them what the Elvish word is, because it's well known to everyone. But if it's a place that is less known, or if it's culturally significant enough where they're not going to sort of rename like religious city of the sun, they're not going to call it that, like it's some item suffix or something in a video game. You know, they're gonna mix it.
So depending on who you are and where you're from, then there ends up becoming a displacement between, I guess, using like language and what language you're using as a way of social marker as perceived within like the world societies. Because if you're then using English to refer to something, it's showing that it has an inherent value higher than Elvish. That's really interesting.
There's also another mechanical use for that though, and I don't remember who was talking about it, but it might have been Tolkien or somebody talking about Tolkien. I don't remember who it was, but basically Tolkien's theory on it, was that you could, like, the TLDR, what I got from that discussion or whatever, and I wish I could find it again, is that you have a currency of ridiculous names. right? You can
Yeah.
make somebody remember one or two ridiculous names, and then they're like,
You can't
okay,
do too, but
you can't do too many. You can't have everything be called something silly like Rohan and Gondor. You're like, okay, Rohan and Gondor, cool, but you're gonna go to Mirkwood and Bendy whatever and Mountain Weathertop, and like these are English words that are simple for you to grasp. You know, the Shire, right? You understand these things so that when you want to give your readers or whatever a word like, you know, the Dark Tower of Cirith Ungol, and you're like, the what? Okay, hold on, listen, man. We were just at Minas Tirith, and now we're at Cirith Ungol. Like, what's in the middle? It's like the Golden Plains. You're like, okay, thank God. Okay, it's a real word. Okay, fine.
So what you're talking about is basically just the edict versus the emic interpretations of the same thing. Because one of them is the in the universe reasons, like as like the characters in the world reasons for these things having things, versus like they also have a secondary purpose of outside of the game as players looking into this world.
I think it lines up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's useful. I don't know. I don't know if that seems dumb or...
No, I think that... What do you mean? How would it be dumb?
Because it's inconsistent in some ways.
That's literally the only thing humans are consistent about.
That's honestly like what I realized when I was making the Relic Coast map and I messed up on two names, and I made this backstory about how they had this dumb interaction as to why they messed up the names. And like,
that's the most human thing.
Well, I remember somebody in chat was just like no one's ever gonna believe that, and I was like, listen, hey, we need to talk about language and the naming of places for the last 4,000 years, okay? Because that shit happens all the fucking time.
Do you know how many places in America are literally just named after places in Europe that those people came from?
More or less.
We have a city named New York.
that's yes. I mean, we have London, Ontario. That's, you know, it's
right. Like it's all the same shit.
But also the misunderstandings I think are very human, right?
Yeah.
Like Greenland and Iceland. You know, you're like, wait, but this, why did they? Wait, that's messed up. Shouldn't that be the other way around? But it's so believable that that's the real story. So I feel like those inconsistencies actually sell a sense of believability. You know, they build some
level of realism.
Yeah. So I have like more important locations I'm more concerned about using ridiculous names for. So like the Twilight Starwoods is a place that I want people to understand what it is based off of the name. If I say there is the city of Asha Ithari at the center of the Twilight Starwoods, you don't really know what Asha Ithari is. Could be anything. But if I say Twilight Starwoods, like I don't know what kind of vision that conjures. Yeah, like the whole point of the Starwoods is it's a forest that as you enter, the day abruptly ends, and it's shrouded in eternal night. So
I like that a lot. I was assuming that like I took like the less magical approach of like it's a forest so dense that it blots out the sun, but I like that even more.
Yeah, I don't like to have too much like magic shit in the world that changes the geography, because I feel like you're messing with powers that are a little bit too powerful for like consistency's sake. But I want to have some areas that are kind of fantastic like that. So when I say Twilight Starwoods, but regardless, you had a general vibe from it that was on the exact same thing that I was going for. So it's easy for someone to read that and be like, oh, that's cool. I kind of know what's going on there. And then...
Does that then mean that the Twilight Starwoods has a lot of bioluminescent creatures in it, like the Deep Ocean does?
So, yes.
It absolutely should if it doesn't.
So here's the way that the proto-elves that became the modern day elves, they also became the Nyathar and so Runa is descended from the proto-elves. The proto-elves were basically like the building tools, like they were the first ones that the Eldari made when they said we need a bunch of people to build shit for us. So we're gonna whoever, whether or not whatever mythology you follow in Eldar, depending on if you're Elvish or Dwarvish or whatever, either the creator or whoever created the proto-elves, or they asked the proto-elves to help them, or whatever. There's a bunch of different creation myths there. But the whole unique quality of the proto-elves is that they could take on the magical qualities of whatever that surrounded them and take that into their physical being. So if you put one of these proto-elves around a natural forest with lots of life magic, they naturally become wood elves, and they get flowers growing in their hairs and whatever. And if that generation, that lineage, that bloodline stays in the forest close to that long enough, they will eventually turn into basically treants, you know?
Oh, that's really cool.
That's how I'm also explaining all my anthro races. So people always want to be like, oh, I want to be a bird man, I want to be a dog man, I want to be a fucking cat man or whatever. And I can't necessarily create a story for these individual things, but I want there to be room in the story for them so that you can create a turtle man or whatever you want to do and be canonical. So the idea is that if you take these proto-elves and you put them next to a wild god, one of these like great ancient spirits that sort of resemble the great spirit of the turtle or whatever, and you put them in a tribe around that, they will begin to take on qualities. So Runa's lineage is somehow connected to a great, you know, chow, you know, dog spirit or whatever.
To make it easier.
It's fuck it. Her ears are way too fluffy. You know,
They're so fluffy.
So we can't. No one's gonna
it.
believe it's a wolf. Okay, come on, bro. Like, let's be real.
That's fair. My bad. I'm sorry. How dare I be so presumptuous to try to be a wolf?
Dude, come on.
My bad.
Listen, her tongue's blue. Like, what the fuck's up with that? Stop. God damn it. You are not now the blue chicks of the game. Okay, you just your tongue is blue because Chow Chow's tongues are blue, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's weird. So you take these elves and you put them into next to so the main like high elves, night elves, wood elves, the night elves, which are the ones the sort of your drow, your dark elves, your night elves, your whatever, they live in the Twilight Starwoods, and where they get their magic from is they have these plants all around and these large star trees that I sort of identify on the map that have like constellations in the under kind of canopy of them.
Mm-hmm.
They have all these plants and whatnot that actually take moonlight and starlight, and they collect it and condense it into the flowers and into the leaves. That then when one of these proto elves, or well, they're at this point they're Twilight elves now. They're just straight up. They're no longer proto elves. They're now full on Twilight elves. But as they live in and around them, they are constantly absorbing this magic from all of these trees and plants. So there's all you can imagine when you walk into the forest. There's all these glowing vines and glowing flowers of sort of silvers and blues and pinks and pale purples and like, you know, cool night colors that you could imagine like a Twilight elf sort of like cupping a flower in their hands and sort of absorbing some of the light out of it to rejuvenate them in some way, you know.
That's very cool.
So Runa has that sort of same lineage of she is, her bloodline has spent so much time around this wild god spirit that now it's not diluted enough. Like if Runa had children with another dog person for the next like, you know, 10 generations and none of them had any exposure to this like ancient dog spirit or whatever, their bloodline might diminish a little bit. Their tails might get a little bit strong or, you know, shorter. Their ears might like like it'll begin to fade just a little bit. But
oh no, evolution is real. What are we gonna do?
It's magic evolution. Holy shit. God, man. We're gonna piss people off with that. Blaze is gonna be like, why isn't this place flat? Yeah, it's a problem. We gotta figure out how to so
The map is flat. Of course the world is flat.
Just make a globe of
It clearly is flat. Look at the maps. Blaze, why are we the same fucking person?
This is disappointing, all right? This is disappointing. But expected.
Yeah, that's true.
So, all right, that's dumb language stuff. Nobody cares about this shit. Yeah. I just think I'm more clever than I actually am. So,
no, it's great. I like it.
So for Runa,
why did you pull that back up?
Wait, what?
Why did you pull up?
Pull up what, Runa?
Runa?
I put Runa up. Wait, what?
Yeah, no, I have the stream open. I can see you.
No, I don't know what you're talking about. That's the problem because I've opened this, so I don't know. Oh, I finished a painting.
Oh, I'm so proud of you.
No one's ever seen it. Do you want to see it?
Yeah.
You'll be the first person to ever see it. I finished this off stream completely. It's a commission I finished.
Oh my god.
I had some characters. It's a big photo. Oh, this is gonna take a minute to open it. Fine. I need to take an art interlude for a minute here.
Oh no, I'm not.
Look at it.
Loading
Look at
the
it.
spinning wheel. Oh,
there it is,
so
man.
good.
I'll make you a little bit smaller for a second.
Yeah.
There.
It's okay. You can put me in the corner. That's fine.
I finished the painting, guys. I did it.
It's so pretty. Holy shit.
Somebody actually finally
cool
asked me to draw a bard.
It's a good bard.
They asked me to draw a bard. And I like to think that I made a loot look cool. So I think of the loot and
I think you did.
I think it's the most difficult thing to make look cool in all of D&D is a bard. It's like the dwarven barbarian takes his ancestral maul and like grips the leather and tightens it. You know, the wizard begins to crackle magic from their, you know, fingertips. The warlock pulls the souls of the damned out of his staff and readies them in an eldritch blast. The bard plays his fucking little banjo ever so dramatically, and you're like, okay, this just ruined the entire thing for me. So it's hard, but I think we did it.
So Evan doesn't like bards confirmed. I'm sorry for all the bard lovers in the chat.
Do you like limerick spouting bards either?
I actually do, yeah.
But do you like the ones, not the ones that theoretically we get? Do you like the ones that we actually get? Because you never get the bard that says something heroic and rhymes it with this, and now you're gonna whatever, and then it's like, wow, that's actually really good. It's always like, okay, Jeremy, what do you want to do? It's your turn. Well, I'm gonna.
If we're giving a pass and we're saying that like the barbarian that is like fucking less than like 3rd grade level of understanding of life is cool and that gets a pass, then yeah, the bard gets the pass.
Here's my rationale.
Uh-huh.
If you are the barbarian and you want to say, I walk over to them imposing my physicality on them.
Yeah, but a barbarian's not gonna say that.
No, but
they're gonna say, I walk over all big and I'm gonna smash them.
No. But like if the barbarian says like, I am going to be a giant angry barbarian and use intimidate, you kind of can visualize that. But imagine now that with bards don't say, hey, I shout at you a heroic message and inspire you.
Yeah, because because the second they do that, the exact thing that comes out of the next person's mouth is, well, what do you say?
Exactly. And so you have to be comfortable with the bard being like, yeah, whatever you need to hear at this moment, you hear it. Because the second you try and be clever, you know, you're like,
if someone is asked to be clever and attempts to rise to the occasion, that's not their fault.
But they don't ever. But it's never impressive. I
didn't say paid off.
The attempt is not good enough. I'm tired of the attempt,
then
Fishy.
Stop asking.
I don't. I don't.
Then why is it a problem?
Because I'm at the table and I'm like ready and I'm like, okay, all right, what do you do? And then my player's like, I cast Bardic Inspiration. You're like, okay, great. Anyway, is there anything else you do in that turn? They're like, no. I'm like, okay, great. It's Ellis. And they're like, wait. I'm like, what? Is there something else you want to do? Wait, I'll say, I'm like, I didn't ask. They're like, no. I'll say, if you're a paladin and you want to get a little tickle, then it's time to grab the monster's pickle. And you're like, you just ruined my D&D game.
Is that
you just ruined my D&D game.
Experiences in this game?
As playing with bards on average, as long as I have played with D&D players, yes, that is my go-to experience with bards.
Have generational trauma.
I mean, you're right, but like I mean, that's true. I'm not gonna pretend like it isn't, you know? I just find that every bard I've ever played with is far less charming, charismatic, interesting, or witty than they think they are. All right? And I am willing to have my mind changed. I am seeking the bard that impresses me, the bard that delights and entertains me.
Have you never had the person be like, hey, I want to play a bard and I want to play this kind of person, but I am not this kind of person, but I'd like to use it as a way of trying to encourage that kind of growth within myself? Is that okay with you?
I mean, I guess.
You sounded so fucking depressed just now. Are you good?
Yeah, I'm just...
Do you want to talk about how much you hate clerics for a little bit to feel better?
I don't get it. They're so stupid. They're such pussies, bro. It's like you could have been a paladin. Imagine you were a paladin, but you just don't get a sword. What do you get? You have fucking magic tickle hands. That's all you get as a cleric. Oh, I get a hammer. Okay, you slam your hammer, your great hammer into them. Bam! You hit. How much damage do you do? And they're like 3. And you're like, I wanted to be impressed. Okay, how much? Okay, paladin. What do you do? I barely hit. Okay, what do you do? I got bad rolls on my dice. How much damage you do? 74. He erupts into flames and bursts into the atmosphere. And it's like every time a cleric has ever done anything except for divine intervention, a paladin has done it, but cooler. Okay?
So I don't disagree necessarily with that. I just think So I want a different like archetype to exist in D&D that doesn't, and
What's
like
that?
I've had the mech heads explain it to me, so
Okay.
like I get why it doesn't, but I think it's stupid and I hate it.
What is
That
it?
like healing is just like a bad idea in D&D, and I think that that's absolutely stupid and I hate it, like just on principle, because I think that
Yes, I
the
agree.
idea of playing like D&D and be like, cool, we're gonna be optimal, so you're gonna let me go down and then you're gonna heal me. It's like, I my character cares about you. What if you die? What if something happens and I can't heal this turn? Like, oh, but it's so inoptimal to try to keep me at a good health. It's like, I don't fucking care.
Dude,
I want there to be an actual priest class in D&D. Like the actual squishy like Freyrin priest class that's just a wizard that does the healing stuff instead. It doesn't fucking exist, so instead they give us the cleric.
and
And I think that's the shame.
you know how hard I agree with you, Fishy?
It's not cleric. No, not cleric.
Do you
That is
know?
not the cleric. The cleric walks around and
No.
wears armor and has a big ass hammer. I'm talking about a squishy ass robe wearing fucker who doesn't fight physically.
And do you know how much I agree with you? This is
I feel like it's a lot, and that makes me feel very vindicated.
You are not only vindicated in that I agree with you, I am going to prove how much I agree with you by saying that's why I created the Astral Sage. The Astral Sage has cantrip level healing.
Oh, I
So
love
if
that.
every turn you want to just give your homie a boost, you can do that.
That's
Because
what I want.
like that idea. I like playing the white mage where every turn you're sitting here managing health pools and you want to throw a little heal to your friend over here.
Mhm.
And you don't feel like, oh, I only have 3 spell slots for the day. Okay, do I want to cast Cure Wounds or whatever? And you're all stressed out. I don't want healing to be stressful in D&D where you're not sure if when you should be using your resources. I want you to have a small token amount that you can heal every turn, just like you would throw your axe and deal like a couple damage to whatever as a cleric. And you're like, okay, well, I'll just wait for damage. No, and people think that it is going to get into a point where it is going to force people into, like, the biggest complaint or criticism I've had leveled at me is that if you have the ability to provide that kind of healing or shielding or whatever, that it's going to force people into playing optimally and always using this overpowered healing or shielding. And I don't fucking think people are that dumb.
What do you mean it's gonna force people to play optimally?
I think people do whatever they want.
Coffee locks exist.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. Tell me you're a power gamer without telling me you're a power gamer. You know.
If you're going to like min-max your shit, you're already doing it.
Yes.
You're already doing it if that's what your fear is.
And you know,
those people already exist. And if you don't want that at your table, that's a completely different conversation that needs to happen.
I agree. And like on my point as well that I sort of add on to that thought, the way I finish that thought is I am also not ever going to commit to making a class that is so perfectly balanced that the power gamers are impressed.
No, of course not.
Because if D&D makes a class, they have to publish it so that it's fun for the casuals, cool for the vibe check, passes all these bars, but it's also not going to be silly for the power gamers, right? They can't.
And also,
it's unbreakable,
it's
you know.
Balanced, the power gamers can't break it, and so it's not going to be super satisfying. It's just going to be frustrating, and they're going to say, "Well, it's underpowered," and then they're going to move on.
Yeah.
So that's an unanswerable question.
So I'm not going to try and make something for them anyway. So my feel with the Astral Sage is I want the Astral Sage to be about vibe. I want you to be able to have a cool like space spell. If you want to like throw a space rocket at somebody from like drop there's one 4-rune spell they get around level
caster.
Yeah, they get a 4-rune spell at around level 8, I think it is, that lets them drop like a meteor on somebody. And it spends all your resources for the day. You can't do a single other non-cantrip spell that day. But it's fucking cool, right? If you want to do that. But also there's healing spells. And the idea of having a healing damage, whatever class is like cool, but I completely agree that the vibe that you want out of that healer, like the Freyrin Priest, where you're just every turn you're looking at an injured ally and you're throwing some damage or some healing their way. It does, I will say, the one criticism I think is valid is it does change the way your DM has to run the game, because a lot of times DMs don't like to do incidental damage to people. I think that's a mistake.
What do you mean by incidental damage?
So like the hag like explodes a mushroom and it deals like 3 damage to everyone on the field. Like they don't like to do stuff like that. They like to have it be I hit you with a big attack and you take a big axe attack and you take, 32 damage or whatever. Most D&D is written for that style of thing. That's why it's optimal to have big healing spells. So when one of those attacks makes it through armor, makes it through damage resistance, whatever, and hits your paladin for like 30 something damage, you're like, oh god, that hurt. You have the really powerful healing resource to pump into them to like, mitigate that attack or whatever. But there's very little, if ever. What I'm basing it off of is the Final Fantasy X White Mage. I don't know if you ever played 10, but
I didn't play 10. No.
You basically had a spell every turn that didn't cost mana. That was a small heal to everyone. And I don't know why it wasn't like powerful, but it was fun. And it was about the vibe of it where you felt like you were doing something support every single turn. I completely agree with you. That's why I'm making the Sage this way. That's the thing that I've gotten the most negative feedback or criticism about is the fact that I allow for that small little like drip healing that I think is just fun if you want to spend your turn doing that.
So this argument of like, no, it changes the core way of D&D acts is the like same argument I have for why I play D&D and not a different system, even though like I hate like the mechanical like combat mechanic-y stuff part of it.
Right.
Because it's not like you're Wizards of the Coast. You're not making something official that is supposed to alter the way the world perceives Dungeons and Dragons. You're adding more options. You're widening the breadth of what D&D can be, and that's the point of it. It's not that you're here to change the way that D&D is perceived. You're here to make room for another style of play. And as long as everyone at a specific table is happy with that, that's all that's needed.
Yep.
And if somebody has a problem with you're changing my game, just don't allow it at your table. Done. Problem's over.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that's the only way you can get around those. It's because it is strange that I have noticed doing this for like people. I will say the overwhelming majority, like 99% of people that find their way into this channel are all the same mind. People generally agree D&D's cool, it's open. If you want to do something cool and different, let's see what you got. Like this is it, this is interesting. It might not be for me, but like I'm here for it regardless. Which is something I value about our guild. But occasionally I get these reality checks, and I actually kind of like when it happens, when somebody brand new comes in with an expectation for it to be just like Wizards, and I'm like, okay, this person exists, how do I please them? And I think I realized that I can't please them necessarily right now. But like, I'm greedy. I want to make everyone happy eventually. I want to please everyone. All you do
is focus on making everybody happy. You make something middle ground that never really pleases anybody 100%.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why I'm more confident now in, like, I've had the framework for the Sage and the Knight done for a long time, but I haven't been talking about releasing it soon until like recently. I've been talking about releasing it because I've been sitting here agonizing over like, oh god, the Knight, like this thing feels really powerful, or like people don't like the way I balance the cantrip casting for the Sage, and it's like, oh man, this is just not like good. But I think that the most important key thing in the game is the vibe. It's like the idea of people don't choose a race in their D&D game because of the optimal mechanical whatever. Maybe halflings.
Exactly.
They choose it for the vibe. They want it to be something cool. They want to play a cool dude with horns that looks cool, and you're like, okay, exactly. Those are my people. Those are the people I want to please because I feel like I can please them because they're excited for stuff.
Like, I'm a human every fucking day. I don't want to play a human in my fantasy world. I want to go be something fantastical I can never be.
Human's a bit of a stretch.
I said D&D doesn't have a priest, and there have been like 3 different people saying like, "Hey, and Dewey, this existed."
It did actually. No, Moose is right. It did exist in second ed.
Fucking funny.
That's true.
Okay, but guess what? No, I don't know that. I've been playing D&D for like 12 years. Anything that happened before that doesn't exist.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. No, I forgot. Actually, good catch, guys. I did forget that priest. There was a priest in second ed. Yeah. I think I enjoy the kind of people that are more about the experience and the vibe as well. So
we're sitting at a table playing Imaginary in our heads.
But also,
all you have is vibe.
Something you said kind of bothers me. You said I'm a human every day.
Yeah.
Are you sure you jump over that bar every day? Like, I know your schedule, bro.
Stop.
I know your schedule, homie. Like,
tell me like this.
I feel like that's maybe we shouldn't kid ourselves. We shouldn't lie to ourselves. Okay, there's like a certain, I don't know. Like humans don't scuttle. the way that you scuttle typically.
What do
So-
you mean?
Well, like when I drew the dragon and you related to like slinking to the kitchen for snackies, you know?
You gotta be quiet.
But
Is
humans-
it too loud that you're going somewhere?
But humans sneak, they don't slink. Okay, that's the difference. So I'm just.
I mean, I think you could if you tried hard enough.
I appreciate it. Thanks for believing in me. Yeah, that's great. Okay, yeah, I think yeah. Okay, so we're on the same page. That's it. That was a lesson actually that took me a long time to learn, that I couldn't please the gamers, and part of that came from me what am I trying to say? For me, improperly comparing or using my experience in MMO spaces and video game spaces, because I think that one of the best ways to make a game for me is to derive a lot of things from MMOs. I think that MMOs and a lot of things that my philosophies come from that, because I think that it is very much an experience based thing, you know. And the experience of playing a Death Knight or whatever class it is, going to a certain place. I feel like D&D misses on a little bit, like class identity. For me, class identity is super strong and it's fun to jump onto, you know. But D&D doesn't have it as much. They don't have the experience of being a paladin or whatever as strong as it is in a game, you know.
So I like when it exists, but I like when it exists because if it doesn't exist, then I can't go against it.
And that's fair, okay? That's a
Is
very
that
valid
weird?
reason. No, it's a valid reason for it to be there, because then that's the interesting if there's an exception, because because if the rule isn't established, then an exception isn't interesting. And it's like, well, how do you do that?
exactly.
Everyone in D&D plays exceptions, and I'm like, of course they do.
Because
But why
everyone's
isn't the
out here
rule
being like,
still
"I'm getting
there?"
kicked."
Yeah, but why wouldn't you still have a cool rule so that everyone gets the experience of being the exception
Exactly.
for? If everyone
Because
has,
then the organization or whatever can pop up again like later down the line, and you then have an adversary.
yeah.
And it's not like, oh, this is the BBEG. It's like, no, we don't all just have one BBEG in our lives that like is coming after us. We have like a myriad of different peoples.
Right.
And we all have that fucking high school kid that we went to school with that we didn't get along with, and you then happen to run across one day and you still hate each other type of, like, that still exists. This is like the D&D equivalent.
You just unlocked trauma for me that I locked away.
I'm really good at that. I'm so
Oh
sorry.
my god, he was so pissed. Okay.
Story time?
Yeah, sure. So I was working at the game. I was working at the game store, and I was in my. I'd gotten married already, so I was about 24, 25, somewhere in that range. So out of school for a while, and this kid comes into this other kid who I went to high school with, and he was an artist as well. And I was always better than him, and he was always mad at me for that. But he gave up. He didn't go to art school after high school. He went to like finance or some shit like that. Like, I don't know, some normie stuff. Good money, you know, fine, whatever. But he comes in the game store one day, and he was like, Evan Blair, and I'm like,
Full name.
oh shit, yeah, yo, Chris, damn, bro. And I was like, sorry, I didn't recognize you, man. You look different. You look good, man. You look all grown up and whatever. He's like, oh, I recognize you as soon as I saw you. You look exactly the same. And I was like, okay.
What? Wait, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that word.
Okay. I'm like, all right. I was like, okay, maybe he just means that I'm like, you know, there's some relatability, sure. But then he like through the entire time he's like, so what are you doing here? I was like, well, I work here. This is my job. He's like, oh man, that's really cool. I know you always liked card games and stuff. You were always playing with the guys. I was like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, sorry, art didn't work out then, I guess.
Oh my god.
And I was like, no,
I need to message you
Here's-
real
here's
quick.
the
I
thing.
don't know if
Here's
I'm
the thing.
allowed to say this
I
word.
remember this verbatim. I said, no, I'm still an artist. And he said, I guess that's why you're working here, right? I was like, okay.
And then I need you to read my message so you can tell me yes or no.
Oh yeah, you can say that. You can say that.
What a fucking cunt. My god.
I had locked that away for so long.
Jesus Christ. That is this fucking most pettiest, stupid bullshit I've ever seen in my
And he
entire
sat there
life.
telling me for the next like hour at the fucking card desk while he was looking through stuff for a new deck about how he's like, oh yeah, so you know, you went to art school. Oh, that's cool. I went to I went to Queens, which is like a big Canadian university. Yeah, I went to Queens, got the masters, and you know, I came back out here because you know, the girlfriend's family's here, and you know, buying a house is way cheaper here. You know, he's just like just flex after flex after flex. I'm like, yeah, that's great, man. So do you want to buy this elephant card or
do you
not?
still enjoy that? Is it still fun?
Oh God, Jesus, you just unlocked that shit in me.
I hate people.
God.
Hey, don't be like that guy, Chad. Just saying, with love from me.
Yeah. Okay.
Unless they deserve it, then you can.
Oh man, I just felt that feeling again when you mentioned that exact specific thing.
Exactly. So that has to exist in D&D as well.
Yeah, unfortunately. You find the
But then
person through temple or whatever.
But the good thing about D&D is that at least in fantasy you get to overcome those issues.
Well, not in good D&D games. Are you kidding?
Wait,
Yeah.
what do you mean?
I mean, good players in good games will find a way to draw their issues out into the very last minute of the game.
Oh, I guess that's fair. Yeah, sorry.
A 10-year campaign, you still haven't got over your mommy issues. So.
But if you get over your mommy issues, then do you still find the mommies attractive?
That's not okay. So, Runa,
guys, I won. I made Evan put his face in his hands. We've done it. It's been a good stream. Thanks for having me.
Runa is.
Oh, and the glasses. Oh, I've done a great job. I'm so happy. Oh, okay. I feel accomplished. Now I'm ready to build a character.
Across the ocean, there is a lone valley where a secluded village of ancient Thorashians that migrated to Teleria long before the split. And in that village, they have maintained a culture of identity for their Thorashian roots, thus being the very last of their people on Teleria. They are known as... It's a great name. You'd have to remember how great the name was. So we're gonna leave it there as a placeholder. Until we have the name for them.
Why did you introduce it like that if you didn't have a name?
That's how I play all my D&D games.
You could have just been like an unknown people to the rest of the world.
No, I always say like in our D&D game that we played on Thursday, they were one of the players was like, "So Ella, where do you hail from, Valiant Nitrous?" She's like, "Oh, I come from." And I'm like, she tells you it's the big place across the sea that everyone knows, and you're really fucking impressed. My players are like, "Oh wow, oh I know that place.
No,
oh great,
valid.
Yeah, that's amazing." I'm like, yeah, it's super impressive when you hear it.
You don't like session zeros?
No, I hate session zeros. That's why this is session 0.5.
Wait, why don't you like session zeros?
I like the idea of a conversation before the game to set up certain things about the game.
Yeah.
However, I think that the term session zero has been associated with a very specific type of that conversation that I don't like. And so when you say, it's kind of like saying, you know, I'm going to go and get like, I don't know, Italian food, and someone might have an idea as to what Italian food is, and whatever you're getting is like different, you know, it's like antipasti and whatever. They think you're going for like pasta and like garlic bread and stuff, you know, and but so you don't want it to be associated. You're like, I'm going for this specific thing. I'm not going for like Italian food because it's like everybody. So session zeros, I find on the internet there is a sort of an idea that a session zero is, the way people discuss it is this sort of like virtuous kind of performative event that everyone is morally required to do, where you set boundaries and you're like, here's the trauma I'm okay with, here's the things that I don't like, here's my safe word, and they set up all these things, all these mechanisms that I think are largely not needed, and people like to sort of have them, they like to sort of talk about how great those systems are so they can be perceived as being someone who cares for their players. And I really resent the idea that if you don't do this sort of performative engagement of like, let's now all talk about what we're okay with in our game. Is everyone okay with, you know, torture, like this kind of stuff like that? It feels like there's this very much narrative that if you're not doing this thing in that way that you don't care about your players and you're doing it incorrectly. And so it's a widespread enough idea that most people, when they talk about session zeros on the internet, they are talking about it from that way. And I don't like to handle those things in my game like that. I prefer to just sort of read the room, figure out what my players like, figure out the kind of humor, the kind of darkness they like and they are okay with. You introduce something, your players respond well to it, great. They kind of don't respond well to it, you're like, okay, cool, now I know. And I also don't like to include things that, like, it's kind of thing where it's like, for me, if you have to ask if your player is okay with this, I just try and avoid it. Because I find that it's sloppy storytelling, like gratuitous anything. So gratuitous violence, gratuitous romance, gratuitous anything like that. I don't like to describe any of that because I find that, for one, it's more powerful and interesting if I say fade to black, like you and the barmaid go upstairs,
Yeah, you
fade
know
to black,
exactly what that means.
or like the enemy general comes in, you're strapped in the chair and he pulls out his like knife set, fade to black. Like, I'm fine with that kind of stuff. I think it's better. But I think the people are like, oh no, you can't talk about this thing in my D&D game because I don't like it. It's gonna make me uncomfortable. I'm like, I just wouldn't do that anyway, or I would read my players and know my players and know what they're. I don't need to have this big thing where we all sit down and we all say, and now we are going to set the rules of fun. We are now going to all decide on how to properly have fun. It's not spontaneous and interesting, and it lacks that dance between two people. Very similar to like when you're sort of in a relationship and you're first like flirting with your partner or whatever. Like, you're not setting all these rules of like, am I allowed to like call you pretty? Like, of course there's boundaries. But am I allowed to refer to you, your physicality and the things that I like about you? It's like you just call them handsome or whatever. And it's like you figure out what the other people like. And I think that a good DM, you learn how to do that. And so I'm not saying that people, it's bad when people have this idea, they want to have this very clear set out whatever conversation. I'm fine with that. But I resent the idea that started to pop up where session zeros became so widespread and so accepted and so normal that people started accusing me of not caring about my players and not watching out for them and not taking care of them and being willing to like trigger them with traumas and this and that and that. It's like, what the fuck? That's never been a problem in my games. They're like, oh, well, if you're not doing session zeros, you're like putting your players at risk. And it's like, fuck you.
So I've never actually heard like that perspective at all.
It's
I
really
but also like
widespread.
I'm not
like,
a part of
yeah.
like the quote unquote like D&D community, and it seems like it might be more of like a perception within that. Maybe, I don't know. I agree and disagree with some parts of what you said.
Yeah,
Like,
that's fine.
personally, I really like session zeros. I'm not even against the whole like, hey, what are you comfortable, what are you not comfortable with, especially when you're playing with new people potentially that
Sure.
you've never really played with before. But
Sure.
I don't think that it should be like a hey table of players, what are you comfortable and uncomfortable with. Like, I like the like what I've had people do in the past is like they'll send out like a like, apparently they're like online, they're like what, like the Google questionnaire things are like, hey, are you okay with this kind of stuff, are you not okay with this kind of stuff, like if your character has kids, are you okay like with like something bad happening to children or whatever. Like, I think that that's a pretty like gray area kind of thing that certain people like would be like, that's a little like, I don't want like my kid to get kidnapped and then something horrible, or like for them to die, like it for the character like
Sure.
that. I feel like most of the time when it comes to like these kinds of arguments, we do jump to like the very extremes of like very like overly over the top explained like sexual acts or violence or things. But I think there are a lot of like gray area, not as extreme things that we tend to just make assumptions about that might not necessarily be cool with some people. And at least like within like my groups of people that I've played with, I know that people tend to be more on like the more reluctant, shy side, so they might not necessarily voice their like feelings if like something was too far for them after the fact. So I like it for those kinds of instances, but more than anything, I like it more for just like figuring out character stuff. Because
Right.
I've had the most fun in D&D whenever like my character's story makes sense with the world and can be intertwined with the story that the DM is telling overall. And that can't really happen if I just rock up with a fully fleshed out character sheet and all of the shit. Like, I like session zeros for like, hey, let's work out our stuff. Let's like, how are our characters connected? How is my character connected to this group? How does this group act? And like all of those kinds of things.
I agree. I agree. And
Yeah.
so my issue is with the terminology. There is a
Then
lot
what
of
do you call
there's
it
a
instead?
but that's the thing. So there's a great usefulness in a pre-game chat, right?
Yeah.
That I agree with all those things. But the idea of a session zero has become like almost it has gained this sort of like weird status. So when people say like, "Oh, did you do your session 0?" There's a certain expectation enough people have that I find it to be this like weird thing that I don't like. You know, of like, this is what like because there's all these. I think, okay, my opinion of where it comes from is it comes from the over, like, people have been kind of talking about this recently on D&D internet, but this sort of idea of like a lot of D&D content being geared towards this is how you D&D properly.
I
Right?
hate that shit so much.
And so anytime somebody has, it's like, so I'm not accusing any specific content creator of this, but just imagine a creator that's just like, oh, I got to make a video about D&D today. Fuck, what do I do? Like, I don't know. Top things to do as a good GM. No, I already did that. Like how to avoid being a bad player. Like they run through that sort of metric, and they're like, oh, I know how to run a proper session 0. And then you sit there and see them. They're like, this is how you run a session 0. And so the problem is enough people see that narrative, and they see that sort of, they reflect, and the D&D content sphere is very echoey. Once like a Mercer idea enters the sphere, suddenly that's the correct way to do it. Right?
Yeah, I think that goes against like the core of what D&D is. I don't mind it for
I
like the
agree.
clickbaity thing of like, I'm just trying to get people to click on my video, so it's titled like how to run a session 0 or how to run an effective session 0, where the fuck.
Yeah.
But as long as like the actual content of the video is like, hey, this is how I have seen success in running the things, then I think it's fine. Now when the actual creators or whatever have been like, this is how you need to do it in order to do ABC XYZ, I think that's why like I don't watch a lot of D&D content creators, because I feel like a lot of them are like that, of like I don't think it's a bad thing to be confident about your success. I think that's really important, but when your confidence about your success no longer leaves room for alternative methods of finding that same level of success, I think there's a problem. But I think that for like basically everything.
No, I think you're definitely right, and you've got insight on it. And so I have come to the decision, whether people agree with it or not, that the term session 0, I have noticed, has become too synonymous with this performative, like step by step, here's what you're supposed to do before D&D, to the point where I find the term not productive and useful anymore. So so you're like, what would you call it? I'm like, I don't fucking know. You know, so that's why I'm jokingly calling it 0.5. You know,
that makes sense.
that's a
now
meme.
I guess like when I just saw in chat like that, hey, you don't like session 0s, I was like, oh god, wait, have my preconceptions of what I like to do before a D&D game made you do something that you don't like?
No, absolutely not.
Go-to well, yeah, because like if we don't have a term for something, then like I guess for me, like I go, oh god, wait, have I then made a mistake or been too presumptuous in XYZ?
No, yeah, I see where you're coming from. Yeah, no. It's just it's like I'm trying to think of a good. Oh my god, Eunice scared the shit out of me. Holy, I just heard this like crunching sound, and okay, sorry. She just found her chew beside me. Anyway, so I don't so I like that kind of conversation. I find that I am happiest if I can help a player insert themselves into the world in a way that is productive for them. They can tell a story that is meaningful and unique for them. And like the thing is, I will like I think I have this reputation of not liking big backstories. So I dunk on them a lot, right?
Yeah,
but
you do.
But I love big backstories that serve the plot. And I will, if somebody wants to say like, I want a big backstory, and I want to like they extend a little bit, and they're like, I want to work with you to make it fit in the world and feel really good. That to me, I am willing to move mountains in the world, literally. If you're like, man, I want to be this like noble son of this like pretty big city, like I want to be a duke's son, it's like, okay, I'll make a city for you. Like I'll make an entire city, culture, whatever, for your character to fit you in the game, and so you can have your giant backstory, but we fit it into the game. What I have a problem with is when people come with a giant backstory that doesn't fit and try and say, can you jam it into this? And I'm like,
yeah, I think that's the worst way for a player to approach a not for all D&D. Like I don't want to say like, hey, this is the worst way for a player to approach D&D. I disagree with that statement, because again, D&D is way too many different things for that to be like yes or no. But when for the kind of D&D where like you have a DM who is like, hey, this is my homebrew world, I want this to be like a collaborative storytelling experience. If somebody rocks up with chapter 1, that's not collaborative.
Yeah,
that's taking turns, and that doesn't work well.
Which
but no, I will like if I have a DM who's like, "Hey, my whole thing, I want to tell a story about this world and I want you to be a part of it. I want your character to
Mm-hmm.
feel integrated and all of
Mm-hmm.
that." I will literally sit down for hours and just chat with the DM, like learning about the world, giving them my idea for what I want, them giving me feedback of how that can fit and where it can, learning about how that thing works, modifying stuff together. Like I love that. That's my favorite fucking
Do
thing.
you ever have the inclination, or do you ever follow through on making characters that you don't have a game for them?
No. So what I do is like I will come up with like the very base level concept, or I'll come up with a character design, or like a very basic way that I would want. Like I'll give them a personality, like the way I want
Mm-hmm.
them to behave, and then like a vibe, or like hey, like
Right.
I think it would be cool for them to be this kind of druid type of thing who they really only understand like this, like the way that this society acts, or like hey, I really want to have a character who's like very naive in her way, and her whole thing for her adventure is that she hasn't really experienced like these kinds of things, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So like I
Mm-hmm.
start with that
Yeah.
because I feel like that's a really good starting place
Right.
without like taking on too much of any one thing that would put up walls for a DM. So like
Yeah.
I'll go to a DM and I'll be like, hey, this is like my core idea. This is how I want her to behave and act. How can we make that work? Where do you see
Yeah.
that fitting within like the
Yeah.
systems of your world?
Yeah, that's super fun to play with, and that's kind of one of my favorite things to get from, like, I like it. You know, despite how much I dunk on it, I really like there being a large amount of like player investment. So I want a person to feel invested.
Yeah.
They want, but what I find that the player that I've learned that I am the most challenged at playing with is the kind of person that that says, I have 20 characters that I've built and backstoried and whatever, and now I'm ready to, like, I just want you to play in your game. I want to use your game that you're running as a board for me to take my cool story and tell it, bro. That's the way I've always felt. And so I don't you could say that it might be like it feels a little like the criticism you could level at is maybe like, oh, so you're so protective or defensive of your world that you can't have somebody else come in. It's like, no, it's not quite that, but I get that criticism. It's just it's slightly different, where it's just like, well, then if there's no real like I don't, what the problem that I have with that mechanically is not that if you have a character, you're like, I'm from this island kingdom and I'm this and that and whatever, and I'm a vampire and I'm this and I'm that, and it's like, we don't have vampires, or maybe I don't know, but like they have all this stuff that doesn't fit in the world. I'm not mad about them telling that story. I will let them tell that story in my game 100%. And the way I rationalize it is, this is not a canonical story. Like, for me, very few players actually have a canonical story in my D&D game when they play in Eldara, because I think that enforcing that everyone has to fit in canon is like not fun, you know, for the players.
Yeah, because then it's very restrictive, because like
Exactly. It's not
your world.
Yeah,
that's what like you've decided.
But then I also shouldn't be held hostage to what my players do, obviously.
Yeah,
you know,
nobody should be held hostage in this. Like usually
Exactly.
my like you should write a book is something that I usually eat at DMs more than I do players, but I do think that it belongs at players too.
Yeah, and so I find those players difficult to deal with, but I will deal with. I will happily have them in my game, because I think that they're just excited, enthusiastic, and whatever, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the thing that makes it difficult is that person sometimes I find is a bit disappointed, because they're like, oh, wouldn't it be like so when are we gonna deal with my like backstory of being like an Erganasi beholder? And it's like, well, there aren't beholders in my game, so like we're probably not really gonna touch on that much, bro. And they're like, oh, but you know, that's my backstory. And it's like,
extensive rigidity on the side of the players or the DM is something that has consequences. And if you are going to be so committed to the story that you specifically want to tell, that you refuse to have fluidity or compromise with the other people in this collaborative experience, then you have to accept the negative repercussions of your story potentially not getting the limelight that you want.
Yeah, I think that's on point. So for Runa, is there a vibe you wanna like? Is there a general character archetype or vibe that you want?
I've approached it a little weirder, because like the first idea of her was as an NPC.
Well,
so
she
I'm
is
kind of like working. Well, true, but
by the
I'm
way,
going to be playing her.
So Runa, just so you know, is still going to be somebody that has a quest, because all the mod characters are going to have a quest that you when you play the Horizon adventure and you go through like adventure 1, 2, 3, 4. All of I'm going to release little sort of side components. I did this whole breakdown of like of like the 3 levels of D&D adventure I'm going to write. I'm going to write the big mainline adventures. I'm going to run world building sort of ideas of like, hey, if you go here, here's a cool thing you could kind of do. Here's a hook. And then I'm also going to have little side quests. And the mods are all going to have little side quests. So if you're the board DM and you're like, I want to do the Thorkin side quest, then basically your players are on the Dragon's Claim or whatever, and Thorkin's character walks in and kind of like looks injured, and you're like, oh shit, what's happening? It's like, I need someone to help me with this. So Runa's still going to be an NPC character. So that's not something, we're not going to take that away from her, I guess. So whatever you do, I guess maybe just try and think about how Runa could still somehow be available, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely valid. So I think, so I'm perfectly fine with ideas I toss out being like not fitting in the world. Like I don't want to like throw out an idea and you feel like you have to find a way to make it work or something.
I just need to interrupt you real quick. So Portilla and Wolf, the game is going to be on Tuesday mornings for a little while. So it's gonna be at this time. So we're doing our session prep now, and then next week is gonna be the first like music and whatever, and the adventure starts. So today we're building Runa's character and figuring stuff out with Fishy. So that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Sorry
So
to
like,
interrupt
this
you.
is a character that's like kind of existed like as a concept for a while between like me and Evan, and then talking about it and like of course like the art that Evan's been doing. But it hasn't like actually like been created as a character yet. So I'm kind of like, I feel like we're working like sideways a little bit instead of more linearly like
we're doing world building for it as we go too. So
yeah, basically.
This is kind of weird actually. I don't know if people usually do this style.
It's definitely different than the way I normally go about it, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I like it a lot. I think it's really interesting and fun.
Yeah. So are there any vibes that you have like kind of I don't know how you quantify vibes in your games, but I think about sort of greater story vibes, like, oh, this is gonna be like a pulpy, like, you know, Uncharted adventure. This is gonna be like a darker sort of like Dark Souls type thing. So is there
the DM usually?
Yeah, but on a character side, are there character archetypical vibes that you want to do? Is there a story that you feel like Runa would be very cool, a good character to tell? Is there something that we can like try and figure out where we're trying to get to, that we can sort of aim at while we're throwing darts here?
So for Runa, like I've wanted to make a character for a while that is the very underestimatable, like the very competent but easily underestimated character, just because I think it's really fun.
Okay.
Like the character, like I'm gonna use like the useless goddess trope just because I think it's silly and fun, and so I like the idea of like the useless goddess. It's not actually useless, but they're just like, for example, like so fucking bad at directions.
And what anime would that be from?
I don't know. I've seen a few of them.
Oh, Konosuba,
like,
right? Great. Yeah, your favorite one. Okay, cool.
Oh, I was thinking. I think it's called Black Summoner is the one I was thinking of.
Okay, that's a good one too. Okay, I'm getting Aqua vibes.
I haven't seen.
I know. You don't have to. It's fine. I'm not giving you homework or anything. I'm not making you watch anime before we play D&D together. So Runa's basically gonna be level 10, but just you know, doesn't really get her rolls right. So
basically,
functionally, she's a little okay.
Yeah, or like you know, like just like the caveat of like, hey, when shit gets serious, like she shows up.
Yeah.
But normally she's just like here to be like, you know what, we're part of a group. I'll let other people take charge or like whatever.
Sure. Okay. So.
But also like that doesn't have to be something that you're down for.
No, I'm flexible. So with Runa, let's just start at the beginning. Let's figure out how she got to the astral. So before she would have been selected for an astral knight, she would have made it to an astral sage order. So she would have had to have either some sort of. So sages are either more on
Did they get adopted like Jedi?
Not really. It's like it's more.
How does that work then?
So astral sages can sort of join. They can you can either have kind of like circle, like sages that come from small circles, or sages that are part of grand orders, right? And so the tradition is this of astral sage magic. It is this ancient lost art that is basically like the very foundations of like the primal magic itself, the kind of magic, the spellcasting and mechanism. We've talked about the language before, but the spellcasting mechanisms that the gods would have used to create the heavens and earth. So it's potent, it's powerful magic, but it's lost and people don't really understand how to use it. And the ancient language and runes are sort of like encrypted in a certain way, and it's very difficult to sort of like try and figure out how to do spells and whatnot. And sages have always had this general sense that there was a time when mortal races understood how astral magic worked better than we do now. And so the history of sages is like they kind of came up and understood a little bit about magic in from an astral sage perspective in ancient times. And other magic existed. There were still druids and wizards and stuff, and people who used the arcane and divine. But the sages were using this other kind of magic that was kind of, you know, weird. And it started off very like basic shaman type things, understanding like kind of hitting rocks together and seeing sparks type thing for magic. Eventually, they began to build more and more knowledge of it. And so that's why I always say a sage is a academic. They're a monk. They're an explorer and an archaeologist. And you kind of do all that together because you're trying to look for new magics and you're trying to understand how your current magic works. And there's also a sense of alignment with the stars and the heavens that you can sort of take from a spiritual aspect. So Runa could so as a sage can sort of approach the astral aura two ways. You can either be naturally sort of like very spiritually like a monk, and you kind of are gifted with it and you learn the mechanics of that gift. Or you can be a wizard and you can study the runes and the trinkets and whatnot and figure out how to sort of then mechanically kind of like make yourself into an astral sage. And you can join one of the biggest orders that have like, you know, thousands of members and they have giant elaborate temples. Or you can follow small traditions that have like, you know, a group of sages that come from this small valley. Like there might have been in Runa's home village a astral sage tradition that uses the astral aura and is friendly with the orders, but doesn't answer to them or isn't part of their bullshit, you know, good or bad. And they kind of do their own thing
more
together.
Like traditionalist versus like studied like professionals or whatever.
Yeah, so once you're sort of identified part of that, you need to kind of be in that ecosystem. And then the astral knights will say like, hey, there's something about you that we like, whether it's your physical prowess or whatever, or your connection to the order, you're a great monk, or you're very physically capable or whatever. We think you'd be a good knight candidate. And so then you go to their temple and you don't completely like astral sages can there's no like leaving of their life behind. There's no swearing an oath to an order living in some monastery on top of a mountain and you never see anybody. Sages are unique and they're different and you can be the most unique and interesting sage you want. The knights are more of like the sort of you could describe it as like special forces selection. Like once you enter their ecosystem, you are now culturally part of them. You live and eat and work with them. You do stuff in the temple from morning till night. You meditate and you practice your sword forms, and it's very much more a militaristic sort of like lifestyle, still allowing for things like the idea of it's important for a well-rounded knight to also be gifted and present with their meditation, their spirituality, with things like arts and whatnot. But there's a lot of discipline, and knights are considered to be just like really high performing, intense people. You know, they just do a lot of things, and they usually typically do it very well. And that's why they have
the military school.
Oh no, and she didn't make it. She got expelled. Oh fuck. So she could have had that background. So she can be whatever you want her to be now. Like as you become an older knight, there's more personality behind it. You know. Yeah,
you get more freedom. Like the more that they become to trust you and all of that. That makes a lot of sense.
There's no dogma, but generally like I described it because Ella asked me a really interesting question. Okay, anyway. Ella asked me a really interesting question. She said, "What's their alignment?" And I said, and I had to think about that because that was a really good question for a player to ask me. And I said,
feels very lawful already.
Well, so they are generally lawful good. The way I described to her is they will do anything to protect their like mission and goal, right? So if they're out there and like the astronaut is part of the party and they're like, okay, well I need to like find something. My reason for adventuring is I need to find something for this rune or whatever. And having a strong party around me is going to be good. And if they all want to loot the noble's house and sell it, you know, whatever, it's like, that's not necessary. That's a kind of a neutral thing. The noble's not a great guy, but he's not a bad guy. So it's like, fine, I'm going to loot him. And I'm willing to do that in the name of my mission. But they probably wouldn't loot or steal from a peasant.
Okay, yeah,
right?
So
they have like a moral line.
Don't get led astray, but like, as long as the guys in charge don't get led astray, it tends to be neutral good.
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense.
The mission comes first, but they are not inherently ever trying to do bad. If that makes sense. But you can be on the gray line and willing to do a lot of weird shit or murder or whatever if it means that you're protecting the things you need to protect. Because the knights also have a very interesting insight. that the knights understand greater than anyone else in the world that the Eldara rune sites, that the astral orders and these magics are as important as they are. That the idea of ancient knowledge being uncovered could be like a nuclear moment for civilization. You know, if a rune site that was big enough was uncovered that had some sort of like space laser that they could target, it's like, well, that's like not good. So they don't let like if a kingdom so the main place of worship in the world for the astral sages is called the seat of the Eldara, and it's in Ashasari. And so the elves have an open like pilgrimage. Like they let everyone to their lands that wants to go to this site, even people that are from like not good relationships, because they're like, hey, this is a historical site, it's meant for everybody, whatever. But if the elvish kingdom ever closed off their borders and said you can't come in anymore, there would probably be like 20 knights at the door of the palace, like banging the hilt of their sword on the wall saying, knock knock motherfucker, like you're gonna open this shit up, like this isn't yours to own, this is the Talarian whatever for people who are sages and pilgrims and part of that ancient religion, and us to go be part of this. So so knights have this like understanding that there's more importance to this than your normal person would be like, oh, it's a cool big space rune thing, like who cares?
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, so I think then, like, I guess talking about where Runa is from, then I think that it would be interesting if like that her like little plains village or whatever is located beside like maybe a rune site. I'd probably not like a giant super important one.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
One enough that they would have a group of astral sages or whatever. I like the idea of her being more predisposition towards like, hey, the astral magic is cool, versus like I'm going to super duper study it, just because I kind of like the idea of her being more just kind of like going with the flow type of thing, instead of very like studied astute kind of this, like I am like the knowledge person who does the knowledge things like very openly.
Right. That's because there is sort of like how you align yourself every morning typically when you're preparing your spells to like the cosmic celestial bodies. Some people do it various like calculations, they'll adjust all their like scopes and stuff in their astral atlas and like tinker it all and make sure it's all like in perfect star charts and whatnot, and other sages kind of like sit there and close their eyes for a bit and kind of like manipulate it a little bit and just sort of feel where the kind of the warmth of the cosmic energy is coming from, which direction, and they kind of align it based on their soul. Yeah, so you can either as a sage you can either prepare your spells or you can meditate your spells. One of two. I'm like, and so part of the sage casting is I'm thinking about actually letting sages choose between wisdom or charisma as their casting stat, which
Can
is
I be
like
charisma.
Well, knights are gonna be slightly different, which are gonna be cool. But yeah, they're gonna be charisma
a shit knight,
and.
Okay, we're leaving the order.
That's okay. That's fair. That's entirely fair. But
I joined an astral knight order and I got with a stupid spear. I need a t-shirt.
Okay, dude. Listen. Okay. The spirit comes next. We're trying to figure out how she became a good astral knight.
I don't think she did. I think she probably got the technical skills, but I don't think she ever But I like the idea of like her little village being cut off and wanting to join a different order as a way of getting to explore and see the world, and then kind of realizing what she signed up for after the fact, and then writing it out for as long as she can, because she's like, well, this is the path that I put myself on. And then I like the idea of maybe some random NPC, I don't know, maybe this guy named Endrick telling her, no, it's okay, you can change what you decide to do in life. You don't have to stay in this. You know, we've got this guild over here.
Yeah, okay. All right. I like that. Yeah. Okay.
Leaves the night order in order to multi-class.
You'd have to if you as part of the hero class, because we're talking about a lot of exceptions here for just so you guys understand for the night.
Course, yeah.
But when I write the night class, I'm going to say the canonical way, if you want to play the most like in line with the world and the story and whatnot and follow it through, is you have to take the astral knight background, which is you being a student at the temple from at least a younger age, not like you're a child or whatever, but just like at a younger age, you're sort of recruited into the order. You have to take the background. You have to start at level 1 and you cannot multi-class. And so the sort of the caveat rule is when you do multi-class, you're out of the order, bro. And the tricky thing is, usually if you leave the order, and this is gonna tie in here, if you leave the order, you don't get to take your sword with you. When you become knighted and you get your sword is one of the most valuable objects on the planet. Astral steel is incredibly rare, incredibly powerful, and incredibly important. And so when you like knights will go and retrieve these weapons from fallen knights, and people kind of know that if a fallen knight, like a knight, dies in your village, like you just put that sword on a table, and when people in dark cloaks come to get it, you don't like, you make them tea and you say what's up. You don't try and keep it or nothing or hide it or whatever. Like you just don't do that, because they're not going to care who or what they have to go through to get that blade back. You know, so when Runa would left the order, there would have been like that moment of like, okay, we'll surrender your weapon, and now you can't cast your spells anymore. You can't use your knight abilities if you don't have the blade. So either you stole the blade, now your part of your story is you're on the run, or in Runa's case, maybe there was like something, an experience that she had where it's like, here is a piece of hidden astral steel weaponry from before the age of the knights became their own order, whatever, that is a powerful enough weapon for Runa to be able to channel her astral knight abilities through. But like, you don't.
That's so cool.
But
I like that idea.
So you can still be a knight, and that's also why you wouldn't be part of the order. Because the weirdest thing that I wasn't going to tell you should or shouldn't do, but maybe the biggest challenge for this right now that we decide that Runa's going to use a spear, is how does Runa use a spear and maintain identity in the order? But if you're okay with her not being in the order,
yeah, I think that it's cooler if she's no longer in the order.
Yeah, then you would have gone off to you would have left and whatever, and you would have surrendered your weapon and all that shit, and you would have known all this training, but you can't use it. And then you have this opportunity, you've been given this weapon, or you found it, or somehow it's found its way to you in whatever way you think is most sort of poetic for your character's story and their origin, that now you can use your abilities again. But you're kind of also stumbling. That's why you're kind of almost like back down to level 1, because
yeah, very much so.
Everything like their weapon, their fighting style is cultural. Their weapon forms, the way they swing their sword, the exact ways they parry, it's all very like a martial art, like HEMA kind of European stuff. There's manuals and codexes. They've been doing this shit for like 2,000 years the same way, and no one has a problem with it because it's been fucking working. But now you're like, you have the ability to still use all your like your same skills, like as far as your astral arts, but you've had this sword in your hand your entire life, and now you've got a spear, and you kind of, there's a little bit of clunkiness in trying to figure out how to relearn. How the fuck
do I use this?
Kind of, yeah, which is a good also excuse for the useless goddess trope we're going for, which is why are you level 1 now all of a sudden?
Yeah,
because you were a knight.
Like you've got like this level of information that does not match the level of capability that you're able to put out right now.
Yeah. So was there a incident, like, did you leave the order on like peaceful terms, or are they not happy with you?
Well, I mean, it seems like they wouldn't really be happy about anyone really leaving, especially if there's somebody who is capable at the time. And if the whole thing is like the useless goddess kind of a trope, then she probably would have been quite capable and someone that was able to help them quite a bit. I like the idea of her just kind of doing like people around her within the order probably would have known that she never quite fit in and was just like doing it anyways. So like it probably wouldn't have been a super surprise for like those that are actually like really close to her, but it would have been something that probably those who are like her superiors or whatever, like, you're not doing this, until she finally just like puts her foot down and is like, I can't do this anymore, and just like probably leaves the sword like on her bed or whatever and just leaves one day.
Yeah, I like that, because there's also then a sense of there's not a pursuit, because like what would also make it very difficult, kind of, well, that wouldn't be difficult, but it would be more of a story beat, would be if you if the order was mad at you and wanted you dead, it'd be very hard to like go on casual adventures now, right?
Exactly. And
if the
I want
order
her
wants
to
you
be able
dead,
to go on casual adventures.
Sure.
So I think.
Yeah, so
it would be cool to. Sorry. There's
like not bad blood, but if they're disappointed, but they're not trying to kill you.
Disappointment, but there's not like bring her in type of shit.
Yeah, because you're like, my parents aren't disappointed in me enough. I'm an anime girl on the internet. I need that in my D&D game.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're going for here. This is thank you for the 2 years, Nix. I know I have my alerts off today, guys, but I will look at all of them after fishing are done today. So thank you.
I also really like the idea of like there being a reason, like there's not bad blood as in like between like you and like the guy that comes into the store kind of a thing. Like, oh, you weren't like put out to stay here kind of a thing.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
But then, like, of course, it would bring like, hey, like maybe it would be like some like side story thing eventually one day, like, oh hey, like she was the one who studied this thing or whatever, and we need help with this thing that she was in charge of at one point while she was in the order, and then they come and find her. She's like, no, I'm good, thanks.
Is there something that you think that is unique about Runa that would have made her dissatisfied with such a rigid, like, this is what we do? Because I don't like kind of what we're getting at with part of that story is like you hear about like the kid that like signs up to you know, join the army to go see the world and didn't think he'd make it into infantry or whatever. He thought he was going to be on a base somewhere, and now he's sitting there in the middle of like a war zone. He's like, I did not want this. I didn't want this or whatever.
Yeah.
Is it that kind of thing where Runa thought she was going to be more of a monk, whatever, and now she has to do night stuff? Or is it just the rigidity of the order being like, yeah, man, we don't go outside for these reasons. We're not, you know, what do you mean you're going to go there? Like, there's no reason to go there. We're going to train instead. And she's like, just doesn't fit with it. Like, what is there a thing that you think that would have been a good breaking point for that, or a good, you know, divide?
I definitely feel like probably more of like the free spirit. I want to go and explore and see the world thing, and not meshing with like not realizing or meshing with how like rigid and structured and limiting a society kind of like that would be. And seeing it as like, oh my god, like look at these really cool knights. Look how they get to go on adventures. They went all the way out to visit like our little village down in the plains or something. Like they must be able to go and see anything that they want to, kind of a thing. And like having this like childhood disillusion of what being a knight is versus like the reality of it being like a quite a strict structure, like structured society kind of thing.
Yeah, practicing
just,
sword
like-
forms until noon wasn't on her.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think she would have minded that part, but I think like this is what you need to be, like this is what a good knight is. I think she would have rebelled from that and
The
been
expectation.
like, well, that's not what I am. Like
Right.
I like we're still individual people. Like we can be knights and also be who we are at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
Unless I'm over like assuming how rigid this structure is.
So it's knights are typically intense, but it isn't. They don't lose their identity.
Mm-hmm. I think she would definitely lack that intensity, but not lack the capability.
But definitely someone who is more of a free spirit would find, even if it's not necessarily a rule being imposed on her, if there's a certain like expectation, right? Like a good knight does this. A good knight like is focused on these things or that or those things or whatever. You know, like a divide point for some knights that in a story that I'm writing that I'm not gonna talk about. Is that basically the knights don't have any responsibility to the people of Teleria as far as their creed goes, where they are trying to, like, they're not trying to do bad, and they won't serve like a warlord or whatever, or invade, or they have no like any of those goals. But they're also, if there's like, you know, a disaster and like this invading force has come into this elvish area and it's like pillaging, the knights are like, that's a shame, like I really hope the good guys get after them, you know. But the knights won't necessarily mobilize unless it threatens something that has to do with either the astral orders or the Eldari sort of monuments. They're kind of very specialized, and some knights like kind of don't really mesh with that, where they're sort of like they want to be more like paladins, just like, I'm out to do good in general, so I want to take my knight abilities and go do good in that direction, which you can do. It's just kind of not like people are kind of like, you go back to the temple and they're like, what are you doing? Like, this is weird. Like, what was a rune site threatened? And you're like, no, I just wanted to save those people. And it's like, okay, weird.
What if then there was something like a rune site is being threatened, but so is her hometown, and she goes, no, fuck your shit, and she goes and saves her hometown?
I don't think that would be like, there wouldn't, they would have an understanding that like that's like, yeah, cool, like you have your own personal attachments that you want to see do well. There wouldn't be like a requirement like you must come to this thing. But I guess it could be if there was something like you had to pick between saving the destruction of like a great, I mean, if you want to be this dramatic, of like a great rune site, or go to like these two things were happening simultaneously, and you were the only person that could do one or the other, and you were pulled between, like, all the knights were like, come on, let's go, we're gonna go do this thing. They were out in that little group or whatever, and you're like, no, I gotta go save home, and or just like this idea that you felt like you couldn't or something. I don't know, because I don't want to make players feel like they have to strip their identity of who they are to be.
No, but I want there to be an in-between.
You know? Yeah.
And I think that's important, because it makes the knighthood more accessible. So then it could also just be something as simple as like Like, especially if you start when you're young and when you're like little kids, like even if it's not anything that's like super intense, like the weight of expectation could wears on you for a long time.
Yeah.
And if she's doing all of sorry, if she's doing like that as her daily and she's not really vibing with it but not understanding it, and then she goes out like on a mission or whatever and she does encounter like someone who's just like gives her that little push to be like, you don't seem happy,
Mm-hmm.
to like kind of make her realize that type of a thing can absolutely just be enough of the reason that
Yeah.
caused it.
Yeah. Yeah. Free spirits are gonna definitely feel stifled in such a rigid order. But like that happens with paladins and stuff, you know.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that
any
happens
kind
with any
of
organized, structured thing.
Yeah, and so knights being a little bit more intense are gonna have, they're gonna have a little more of a sense of duty. But like, so the thing is, like, this is a difficult thing for me to navigate then as writing the class, because it's like, how do I say that, like, culturally there are certain things that you wouldn't do as a knight, but I'm also taking agency away from you as a player, and it's like that's a currency I will have to spend very carefully. So a place that I'm okay spending that very freely is saying, as a knight, you would not have any sort of desire to use a different type of weapon, right? People will say like, oh, I want to be a knight, but it's cool, I want to use an axe. And it's like, but you wouldn't. Like, why wouldn't I? Why would I want to?
Use an axe. And just be a different kind of knight.
Yeah, it's like, well, you wouldn't, because as an astral knight, because like you get in the order and everything that you ever do, part of your culture, part of what you believe in and being a knight that made you join the order, is they all use this, like their martial art is like super connected to who they are. You know, it's like saying, it's kind of the same question of like, oh, well, I want to be a samurai, but I want to be a samurai that uses an axe. It's like, well, I mean, that sort of exists, but it's like if you're thinking with the traditional sort of like the traditional samurai archetype, you know, it's like, well, you train in this style or this thing or whatever. So there's things that I'm okay taking away sort of like a little bit of player agency from, and saying, hey, you kind of need to you need to kind of subscribe to these like points of cool for the knight order, and then you get to like withdraw from the rest of the order entirely of how cool they are. But I don't want to say that you have to be like, you have to be humorless or whatever, or intense.
No, not at all.
I don't know how to word that sometimes, you know?
I think it makes sense to say like, is a serious order that prides themselves on the sanctity and like safety of the ancient rune sites, and that is their top priority.
They're acutely aware of the importance of their mission in a way that almost nobody else is.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And so like you could say like, hey, others think that they take themselves too seriously, type of a thing. And I think like that does a really good job of like laying the groundwork for that, because like as it being like a class or whatever, any table's gonna do whatever the fuck they want to with it. Like if they're like, hey, I mechanically really like this, but flavor wise, let's change it up, like that's just how that works. But I think that it makes sense for like, hey, this is the way that I intended this class to function or whatever, or like story wise as well as mechanically and all that other fun stuff. So I think that's a good thing to maintain, and I don't think that establishing your intentions for a class limits other people's ability to be that class at their own tables. So I don't think it's really something that you should worry about too much.
Yeah, I want to like encourage people in that direction, because I think that sometimes when you operate within a framework, you find more interesting and original ideas if you are willing to sort of participate in it a little bit. But also then it makes what you're doing different so much more interesting. So it's like Runa is this astral knight. She came to the order in the way that you would. She might have knights visit her village. I like that. I really like that story, actually, that she had knights visit her village and they recognized, they were like, oh, this like young, I don't know, like either between like 8 and 15-year-old was like, or 8 and 18-year-old or whatever, is like pretty gifted. And it's like, hey, do you like, is this something you're interested in? And, you know, Runa's like, I don't know, mom, dad, like, what do you think? And it's like, it's not like she had to never see her parents again. People don't visit the knight, like nobody but knights go to their order hall. But knights leave all the time to go see family, you know? So it's not like she would have had to never see her family again, but it's like she would have come back almost like, you know, like from basic training. Yeah, she would have come back from basic training and had her like cool cloak and whatever, and been like, oh shit, you're so cool now, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And so she would have approached the order like that and been a good knight and been like part of it, and is good with all the stuff, all the martial aspect of being a sword, you know, learning all that stuff, and part of the training is all good. But it was just once she sort of got older and there became more expectations now for you to be a good knight, She became dissatisfied with what that sort of meant and the restrictiveness. And so she, you know, whoever she disappointed or whatever by saying, hey, this isn't for me, she left the order, no bad blood. She just surrendered her sword, left in the night or whatever, however you want to sort of have that thing happen. And the question is then, how did you emerge upon this weapon that allows you to continue your legacy as a knight, but not part of the order, as the only functioning astral knight in Teleria that's not part of the order? Is there a way that you think this item would have found its way to you, an adventure that you would have gone on, or something along those lines?
Maybe she like would have been like trying to get back to her roots with like her hometown does have like their own rune site, and like probably
oh
like
my god,
being young
yes,
and being someone who was like attuned with that, like she would have definitely been like very down for like interacting with runes and things like that, and also
okay,
really wanting to explore. Oh, you have an idea.
yes.
Tell
So
me your idea
this
first.
is gonna fit in really well. So say knights know the kind of the basics, bread and butter of what it's like to be an astral sage, because they kind of were before, and Runa was before.
Yeah.
Sages have the ability to sort of interact with the rune sites in ways that other people don't know how to. So there's certain things like you can imagine a wall with runes on it in a certain way, and a sage knows that that's like a door, but it's not a door that you wouldn't know how to open unless you know how to manipulate those specific runes. So it could have been something like the rune site that you and your like sage, you know, families and whatever part of your culture was like around or whatever. You didn't really know how a lot because you weren't part of a grand order, so you didn't know the order like runes. There was some the cool thing about circle sort of sages versus order sages is that the circle sages have like some knowledge that the order sages don't know, because it's like unique to them and where they live and their culture. But the order also has grand knowledge that these circle sages don't have any sort of, you know, the independent sages don't have any sort of knowledge about. So you might have gone to the order and like learned some very advanced sort kind of like runic structure based on being a knight specifically, like the way knights lock their shit up. And then you go home, you leave the order, you're like, that wasn't for me. And you come home and you're like, ho hum, like, what do I do? And so one day you're just sort of exploring the runes like you have done since you were a child. And you see this door and you're like, wait,
I know what that is now.
that's a fucking night rune. And so you can open it and you might have this interior chamber revealed to you.
Yeah.
That was like the personal sort of like mimetic legacy, whether it's like a workshop or an armory or just a singular item in a font or something of this
She's picking
spear
up the legacy of like an ancient knight. That's so cool.
from before the knights were organized into their rigid order, from the beginnings of their understanding of how to use astral knights, when they were more like in the service of the orders and they were more like roaming knights as opposed to like solidified in their order of culture. So you could have found this and stumbled upon this, and it's like, oh, this is from before we learned how to like use the blade or whatnot. So so that could be where it could come from, is like a relic that ties in so uniquely to then your story. I don't know, how do you feel about that?
I love that. I think that's really, really cool. My first question then is, how connected is she then to this like ancient knight then? Are there records? Does she have writings of them? Like I kind of think that that's really cool, of like seeing like a time when this, because like she's still a knight. Like you can't just like leave an order and like leave everything that you've been for like the past like 10 years or whatever. So like she's still that person. So I think it would be really cool and cathartic to be able to like read like ancient writings of like a time when you could be this free spirit and also like be a knight. Like I think that's just really cool personally for her.
That also,
like an individual.
Yeah, and that also helps you maintain a peace with the order, because the order has a very strict, like, you are not allowed to take astral steel from the order, you know, at any point in time. So it's like if a knight died 300 years ago and then you like find their sword or whatever, the order's still going to come for that, because this was our sword 300 years ago. We don't care what it's been doing and where it's been kept. But this is not a weapon from their order. This is a weapon from the before time when the order was not established. So like maybe there's like some sort of like the information gets back to them. They're like, oh shit, Runa has this sword. Like we're gonna go get it or whatever. But then
I think she probably would go to the astral sages, like once she finds it and has the record, to be like, hey, I understand that you're not a part of the same thing, but I would appreciate a mediator.
Yeah, and then they could basically just say like, or I imagine somebody within the order also, because the order is noble. They're not just going to be like petty about it.
Yeah.
So there's probably like a grant, like maybe like there's a squabbling of like younger, like still higher ranking knights are like, oh, we got to get this thing back. But it's kind of a Grandmaster Yoda steps in moment. It's just like, I've been here for a lot longer than all of you. I know the rules a lot better than any of you do, and she's okay with that because that's not our astral steel. That's a relic of a time before our order. So
that's so cool. Like just like the old guy steps up and it's just like, nope.
Well, that's kind of so Grandmaster Morag is the head of the order, and I envision him as I always like this this quote from I forget the name of the voice actor's name, but the guy who plays Optimus Prime, when he always said that when he was doing the audition, his brother was like telling him, because his brother was like some like big army marine guy or whatever, you know, I forget which branch, but he was like, how do I be a leader, whatnot? And his brother gave him this really interesting advice that a leader is strong enough to be gentle. And I really want the leader of the Night Order, Master Morag, to have that presence about him. He doesn't wear his armor around all that often. He's not like he's serious, but he's not as intense as some of the other guys are, because he sort of has this like relinquished kind of like role that he has. So I can imagine that he would have been the one to go to bat for Runa, when everyone's just like, no, we gotta go. She can't have this. It's like, it's our steel. Like we know the rules. We gotta go get the steel when we see it. And he's like, actually, you know,
actually,
that's not our steel. So
I like that a lot. Like the idea that she has like antagonistic relationships with a lot of the knights, especially that are like immediately above her or like from like her like level or rank or whatever, and then to have like very few good relationships, and one of those good relationships could potentially be with like the leader guy, just like as like a you know, she's not really our kind of people, but like that's her shit. It's fine. Yeah, and
it gives you a, because what I wanted for your character, I wanted to figure out how to build this. I want your character, because I don't know where this game is going to go, but I want your character to still have the ability to withdraw from the currency of the order. So I want you to be able to have that moment in game where if you really think to yourself, you're like, God, I don't know what to do. Like, if only I could go ask someone at the order. But you could, and it would be kind of weird for you to show up at their doors and they're like, okay, you're not allowed to come in, but like, let's go for a walk, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah,
but you still have the ability to interact with them.
Like when shit gets really bad, you still have a relationship there, but there's also people there who will like make you jump through hoops and go like everything that they can do to kind of give your life a hard time. But that's not everyone there, and that's the important part.
Okay, so that's how she got her weapon. This is how we're massively avoiding everyone being cool Runa Knights unless they're like, you know, part of this is I'm trying to do mechanically is I'm trying to also illustrate that if you want to be a knight that deviates from the path of what it is to be a good knight, because like Ella is a knight and she's fitting right within the rigid order, and her knight Charlotte that we've done is an astral fucking knight. You know, it fits super far into the order. But I want there to be this idea that if I do want to make a deviation from this, like if I want a spear, if I want a whatever, it's like, okay, tell me. What I always say about this is tell me a cool story. You know,
and that's like, what I love making.
If you want to be the deviation, if you want to be the different one, you want to be the whatever, like you can. I'm not going to force you not to because I'm not weird. But just tell me a good story, you know? Yeah, make it work, and I will. Like I said, I'll move heaven. Like I had not. My previous idea was that there wouldn't be knights. That the knight order would have started with the forging of the blades. But I really like this idea of there being astral knights kind of not really understanding. It fits in with the sage story of really well. Of them not really knowing what they're doing. So there's kind of like these knights that were these like elite protectors, these like legendary guardians that had like the first astral steel weapons before they really knew what they were doing and organized, you know, that's really cool. So yeah, I really like this. Let's take a quick break. I've asked you to sit here for almost 3 hours, and I apologize for that.
It's okay. I have to get told to take breaks on my stream. So
all right, I'm gonna go grab a new water. You do your thing, and I will be back in a couple minutes. All right.
Okay.
Cool. You beat.
Okay. Hi, chat. How are you doing, chat? Actually, wait. I'm also going to go get water, and then I'll be right back, chat. Okay. I'll be right back. I know it will be hard to be left alone, unsupervised, but I believe in you. Okay, bye!
Hey. I'm back. I got more water. Less caffeinated water. Yeah, so I'm excited for this game. Don't know what the players are going to look like necessarily. I'm thinking it's just going to be Fishy and I for a while anyway. Ella said she would be willing to drop in here and there and play a little bit. So probably Ella, well, I'll probably get Ella to like make a character adjacent to the story enough that if she was there as for part of the adventure, it wouldn't be like I think there needs to be a certain level of efficiency of having a character like a person like Ella join in or whatnot, where she understands the story, is connected to it, and can say like, oh, I'm like, I don't know, the rogue or whatever, the sage that Fishy met up with in this portion of the world or some shit. So hi Fishy.
Hi. You were talking. I didn't want to interrupt.
You just kind of you know what? You really did fucking just slink in here. That was an example textbook slink. Holy shit. That was good, man. That was great. I'm impressed.
You gotta peek in to make sure everything's good, but then
God damn, bro.
You don't want to be rude.
All right, listen, man. You're the guest. If
wait,
by the way, it's the fin. Wait, the baka flip is the fin. Jesus.
Yeah.
Holy fuck. Okay.
Yeah.
Which
we've got the branding on point.
Please no shark people. I don't want to add shark people to my D&D game. Okay, so we have Runa's story here. As to how she is, we've spent almost 2.5 hours trying to explain why this super rigid thing that I have like made. You are not doing that, and I'm okay having this be my first game not doing the thing that's super rigid, which might bite me in the ass later, and I don't really care. I'm not.
I think the fact that it did take us 2 hours to get there goes to show that, like, hey, it's not an easy thing.
Yeah, but someone's gonna tune in on episode 4 and be like, "What the fuck, spear? All right, I'll make a night with a spear."
Hey, but guess what? That person's not going to be playing at your table, and it'll be fine.
That's true. But what if they play Thorkin's table?
Do you think some random viewer is going to be playing at Thorkin's table? With love viewers.
I think that's a great, way communities form on Twitch, is playing D&D with people in Discord. I'm going to be running, listen, when the Horizon Adventure is finished, I'm going to be running the Horizon Adventure with basically whoever from my Discord wants to play with me for like 4 or 5 games. Like, I've promised that really for a long time. I want anyone who wants to make their own footsteps in Eldara to have a character and have a version of the world that they are playing in, that is their canon, that is their story. So when I say, hey, I'm making a new island over here, it's not just cool story, bro, neat island, which I think so much of world building becomes at a certain point.
Yeah.
But it's like, fair. Oh, that's a cool fucking island. I'm gonna go there and like drink coconuts and shit, and like you relate it to yourself,
Please open up the coconuts and drink the water inside, not the whole coconut. I don't think it'll fit down your throat very well.
Dude, I drank a coconut in Maui last year. I was so happy. I was so happy and so retired.
Is it better than like coconut water that like you can buy packaged? Because that's just awful.
Yeah, well, it's still awful. If you don't like coconut water, it's not good. It's not sweet. It doesn't taste like coconut candy or any of those like coconut flavored things.
Coconut milk is way better than coconut water.
Never had coconut milk actually.
But they just take like the like coconut, like the white part, and they just blend it into the coconut water.
Oh, interesting. So there's a cocktail ingredient called cream of coconut that's really hard to actually get real stuff for, that you use for certain tiki cocktails. That's really good. But I drink coconut water every morning for the electrolytes, and because when you first wake up,
you being all healthy.
No, it's true, dude. When you first wake up, you for the first hour or 2 of the day, you're not actually working off of your like adenosine system, because that's what caffeine.
I don't know what adenosine is.
So caffeine blocks the things that make you tired.
Yeah.
And so you have adenosine receptors that as you go on through your day, caffeine blocks those receptors from absorbing adenosine. But the thing is, what wakes you up in the morning isn't actually your adenosine, that entire system. It's your adrenal system. So if you really want to wake up in the morning, try not to have caffeine too early. Caffeine's more for like the 10, 12, like 2 in the afternoon crash or whatever. And if you really want to wake up in the morning, have something with electrolytes or salt in it. So coconut water is really great for like restoring.
That makes sense why big salty breakfasts are a thing.
Yeah, well, I think that's just because we love big salty fucking breakfasts here. Giddy up. But no, but you're right. You're right. It is like sugary breakfasts are actually. I mean, I never talk about health stuff because what the fuck do I know? But from what I do, sugary breakfasts are not ideal for your for you waking up, whatnot, because it doesn't actually give your system the jolt it needs. But a high protein, high salt, well, not high salt, but a high protein like electrolyte drink or whatever. So when I go to the gym, like I used to bring coconut water with me. It is like 50 calories a cup though, and since I'm trying to cut right now, I'm not bringing coconut water. But it was it changed the game for me. Well, because I would get up and I'd have caffeine, whether I had tea or G Fuel or whatever, early in the morning. But now I don't usually have something until some days, like today I was pretty tired, so I have pink G Fuel drink in here, caffeine water. But I didn't start drinking this until I'd been awake for 3 hours, and to get me up and going, I used coconut water. So
awesome. Cool. Thank you.
I don't know why. I just realized I never get to talk about this shit with anybody, and I just realized you absolutely didn't ask. So along with every other person watching my stream right now,
shut the fuck. Okay,
and I am so sorry. I just monologued about something nobody cares about. So
you're fine. You taught me something that I didn't know. I don't know anything about health shit at all.
All right. Well, there you go.
But now I understand why I really like soy sauce eggs early in the morning. Okay.
It does give you some sort of a boost in there. So
there's this, I don't know what they're called. Like I can't remember the Chinese name for them. So but like they translate to purse eggs. And so Simeon's mom makes them, and they're so fucking good. And it's you fry eggs, and you fry them until they're like all crinkly on the outside. Like you really fry them a lot, so they're like all brown and crinkly. And then you make this mix of like dark soy sauce, like light soy sauce, a little bit of sugar, some vinegar. Like it's a very like salty sour kind of liquid. And then you put all of the fried eggs back. Not like that, no. I don't remember what the name is in Chinese. And then you put them all back in the pan, and you dilute the solution a little bit with water so that it covers all of the eggs, and you just cook it until it becomes like it really imbues in it, and it's just very like salty brown eggs, and it's just wonderful, and it's so good.
That's legit, bro.
It's so good.
I started buying expensive eggs. Did I tell you about this?
You didn't.
I started buying like super expensive farmers market eggs because they're not just so much better, but like there's like I did them for two reasons, like one crazy reason and one real reason. The crazy reason is that animals that have multiple stomachs can filter out antibiotics and like bad shit more. So it's less important to buy organic. If you care about this, it's less important to buy organic beef than it is for like chicken. So the crazy reason is because I wanted my eggs to be super pure and not have like chemicals and shit in them. But the non-crazy reason is the ones I get are from Hutterite farms that always have 2 yolks and are fucking huge and they're dope. Yeah. And they actually are less expensive than organic eggs at Costco because they're like almost like 1.6 times the size. So I'm okay buying a case for like $18 instead of $12 at Costco or whatever.
So you get more egg.
You get more egg and you get the 2 yolks, and it's always like it's like it makes my day. Dude, how pathetic is this? It's like I'm always so excited for it. You know, it's like
no.
It's like you get a surprise or some shit. You know,
we used to have chickens. I absolutely understand like this very stupid just joy of just like cracking open an egg and there's 2 yolks in it and you're like ah. It's great.
You think that there's something like
it's like you won a gacha game.
Yeah, but it's like really bad. It's like we gotta get this guy a fucking a real job or something. If I'm just like every morning I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to make my eggs, Ella, and she's like, okay, sweetie, I'll make me too as well.
I completely. It's the small joys in life, and it's the fact that you got your gacha coded at a young age.
Yeah, for real, man.
No, it absolutely is. I've started really liking more like raw egg stuff, especially like raw egg yolks. And so eggs are pasteurized, at least here. I assume they are there. You're in Canada as well. So you don't have to worry really about salmonella and things like that.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about that.
It's much more of an issue. Like if you're buying non-pasteurized eggs, you have to be a lot more careful with it. So like we have At my dad's work, there's a guy who has chickens now because like we don't have chickens anymore, and he has Easter egger chickens, and it's so cute because like the eggs are like blue and pink, and they're so cute.
That's awesome.
But because of that, they go from being like especially once you put eggs into a refrigerator, they're non-pasteurized. Once you take them out and they get that like wet film on the outside just of like things being cold, it creates a lot more ability for bacteria and things to actually permeate inside of the egg. So it's a lot more dangerous to eat non-pasteurized eggs that have been like put into cold and then take it out and then put it back again.
Damn, bro.
If you keep them raw.
Does Runa like eggs?
Yeah.
Okay. Does Runa have any dumb hobbies? Because I decided, I don't know why, but I wanted to make so we all know Endrick is my avatar in the world. Endrick is supposed to be the NPC that you can go to and talk to, and it's kind of like you're talking to me in game. He's not supposed to be a hero, or he's not my DMPC or whatever. He's just Endrick and Eldara are Evan and Ella, and they run the Dragon's Claim and whatever. Yeah. But I wanted to make Endrick seem a little bit more like less serious, kind of like silly in the fact that like I want him to be as harmless as possible, more or less. So I'm like, what thing can I do to make Endrick seem like kind of dopey, harmless, not like cool, like kind of geeky or whatever in like a fantasy world sense. And I don't know why it occurred to me that Eldara was like carrying boxes up to their room at the Dragon's Claim, and Dashto wanted to like talk to her because she's a paladin. He's like, oh shit, she's a paladin. I want to talk to her about paladin stuff. So she gets him to carry one of the safes up, or one of the chests up, and I'm like, fuck, what's in the chest? What's in the chest? What's in the chest? Rocks. Endrick likes to collect rocks.
I like that. I think that's great.
So I was like, this is an endearing hobby that makes him non-threatening. It isn't cool or bad. He doesn't collect like war trophies or anything like that, or anything like super smart, like I don't know, insects or some shit, but rocks. So what's Runa's like personality? Like, what does she do? Does she read a lot? Does she like just so I have an idea of the vibe that I'm gonna get from Runa when she's on adventures, so I can think about it a little bit ahead of time.
I mean, if she's my self-insert character into your world, she has to.
She doesn't have to be. Gremlin. She doesn't have to be.
No, she is.
Okay.
I've decided.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. It's fine.
Okay, got it.
She can't not be a gremlin. She definitely collects useless shit, that's for certain.
Oh my god, she's a trinket collector, isn't she?
She's a trinket collector.
Oh no.
Whether it's like she has a book that she keeps like pressed flowers in, or if she finds like this random like teeny tiny little jar, she's like, I don't know what the fuck you could hold with this tiny jar, but it's kind of cool. And so like her room, because like she's a part of the Dragon's Claim, I've decided.
Part of what?
The Dragon's Claim.
Oh, perfect.
Unless you yeah. Like her room there or whatever, it's like it's a mess, and not like a gross food mess, but like she just has, anytime she can't like keep her trinkets with her when she's on an adventure, like they're like, cool, it goes in the room.
Does she like collect like old like coins and shit from around the world?
Anything. She absolutely would. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
But not in the like hey, this one is minted in 1945 and it's rare because like no, like it's.
But it's
just
like it's got a butterfly on it.
Yeah, it's like, oh hey, this is kind of a cool coin. You can't get this around. I think so and so at the guild would think this is neat, so she just grabs it. Cluttered, very cluttered. Think of like Howl's room.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, from Howl's Moving Castle.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
that's
she
cool.
collects like shiny little things, and if she finds something that she really wants and really likes, she'll do like stupid stuff for it. Right. Like let's say like whatever, like for the side quest, like Runa gets lost in the woods and just takes down this giant creature. One of the players at the table or whatever has like some like weird random thing like hanging from their belt, and she's like, that's really cool. Do you like that? Can I trade you?
Yeah, she's like, so we'll give her a merchant inventory, but it's all crap and you can't exchange money for it.
Nope, she's barters only.
She's barter only, and just in the notes of how to like RP with, or like as Runa, or how to play Runa as an NPC is that when she will offer the players to trade if they have any small trinkets, but she will not sell any of her wares. She will only barter for something exceptionally useless and interesting.
Yes, exactly. The more interesting a thing is, and like
it's like a lantern shaped like a pumpkin or whatever, and she loses her mind.
Exactly. Okay. Or like something that looks like maybe it looks kind of average or like something older and beat up, but if it has like a great story to go with it, that also counts as well. Because I really like the idea of like when it comes, because like I don't necessarily really like artificers a ton, but I like the idea of artifice in that like objects develop like attunements depending on like what that object has gone through. So like if something has like a great story about it, or if it's been through something, like it's been there with someone while they did something great, like that thing then develops like additional like augments that can then be brought out by somebody who understands like how to like bring out those latent abilities. So like a sword that is like just forged, or a dagger or whatever, doesn't really have anything going on with it. But if this dagger was forged 60 years ago and your grandpa carried it with him every single day, like out, and it was his like go-to knife for everything when he worked in the fields or something, then maybe it has like some like dedication or like something like that you then could like. I like the idea of that kind of stuff. And so like she wouldn't be able to do anything of that. And I don't even know if artifice exists in your world, but she loves the story of items as well as like the random weird thing that just scratches the brain.
Yeah, well there'd be a lot of stuff depending on there's sort of the absurd side of it, of collecting interesting things with stories. There's also kind of the interesting, like, an astral sage is also a bit of an archaeologist, because it's like you got to go find old shit and old runes and whatnot. So the Shattered Sea has a very like widespread archaeological culture there, because the Shattered Sea is built on basically the bones or inside the void that was the ancient Eldarian Empire. So there's all sorts of stuff that you can find of like, old Eldarian items and candlesticks and runes and whatever from, because basically what happens is in the Shattered Sea, it's this large basin, right? Floating islands throughout. The problem is the Shattered Sea, at the bottom of it, is the abyss, and you can't go in there. But what happens is every once in a while, sky shards are continuously like created in the abyss, because the spell in the ley line is still working. They blew themselves up, but they succeeded in tapping a ley line basically. So every once in a while, the sky shards will collect over enough like chunks of dirt and rocks and stuff that'll draw it together, and a new island will just, like a giant ball of like rubble and rock and land, will just rise up out of the abyss,
like a helium balloon, just
kind of, yeah. And so the thing is that it's incredibly dangerous, because one, it has like abyssal monstrosities on it, so you probably don't want to go there immediately, because there's like crazy shit in all the cracks. You like dig a hole in it, and like there's no plant life or anything on it, and sometimes it has old runes on it. So that's the whole story of Horizon, the first adventure, is that it was a site that sort of rose up from the abyss, but it had ancient Eldari runes on it. And so there was a whole thing in the Shattered Sea where the guilds that ran the Shattered Sea would sell these islands to trading companies and mining companies that just want to mine the sky shards out of it, because it's just a great place to buy sky shards, more or less. You mine the island out, all the sky shards, the island falls back into the abyss. Who cares? You walk with all your sky shards. The problem with that is when they have like cultural sites on them, then like the archaeologists are like, please just let us see what's on it. Like let's just like do some research on it. We don't want to lose all this knowledge, instead of just strip mining the island and it falls in the abyss. So what the council started doing is saying that any island that raises with rune sites on it that are like substantial, that they have to be basically purchased by somebody willing to protect the island from pirates and miners and whoever, and let researchers like do stuff at the runes. So that's what Horizon was, is you can do anything you want with the island besides that. Just make sure the researchers have a safe place to go, make sure no pirates sink the island, and then you can do whatever you want. So Horizon is the Airlace trading company family. We're like, hey, we've got this young daughter that is like ambitious. Luna, do you want to start up your own like trade hub? So she started the city of Horizon, which is the first place the players go to in the formal adventure. That is like partially, it's her charge to maintain the island, but also it's got all this like cool shit on it. So when you get there as a player, the island has only recently been like vegetized or whatever, with the druids like making vegetation whatnot on it. The researchers are doing stuff there, and she's starting up her trade hubs to make this like grand trading city or whatever eventually. So there's all sorts of stuff in the Shattered Sea that Runa, if she's interested in this, like collection of old items, even antiques, relics, whatnot, there's all kinds of opportunities for her to go exploring through the Shattered Sea, if she so chooses, as what her adventuring days are. What she's doing at the Dragon's Claim, basically, to find old stuff. So I guess it depends on how much you want. If you just find unique stuff, and if any of that translates to her sort of archaeological roots in the Shattered, or in the Astral Sage Order.
I love that. Like her just having like the gambit from like, hey, here's this one of a kind thing that we're not sure what it does, but every now and then on like the third Thursday of like every month it glows, to like, hey, look at this really shiny coin. Like I want her to literally have like she is like the guild go-to for like, you need this, like this spell isn't something that people use very often. She probably has the ingredients for it.
She has like,
but what the hell are you going to trade her for him? She
has like the Holy Grail from the Ark of the Covenant, and and also this potato chip that resembles like Richard Nixon.
Yeah,
and she loves both of them equally, you know.
Yeah, and she has them sitting side by side on her little shelf
on the mantle or whatever.
Literally.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Because like she finds values and things not because of how like monetarily worthy they are. They're just based on like how interesting she finds them.
A potato.
How good of an idea like how well they scratch the brain equals how much they're worth to her.
Okay, got it. So she would have been doing archaeological stuff. The problem is, so the one thing, not the problem, but the next part of her story that we got to figure out is, so she goes back to her village. Her village is not in the Shattered Sea. It's in a valley somewhere, whatever. And she finds this spear, and she decides to sort of continue and take on the legacy of whomever this knight was that she's going to be discovering through adventures. Why does she go to the Shattered Sea? What is interesting about that place for her?
So two potential ideas. One involves a question. So one of them, I don't know how long the Shattered Sea has existed, since you said like it became a thing like spontaneously, kind of.
About 1,000 years.
Yeah. So okay. So then the night probably existed before the Shattered Sea did. Then?
Yes.
Question.
Yeah.
Okay. So the night wouldn't know about that. So I don't know. Who would she? Would it have?
Oh yeah, it's true. The night would have all these like references to like if you found like writings and stuff with the night, if you like, do you want to find the knight's like hideout basically, like where they kept all their shit? Yeah, so if they find their journal, they would have referenced stuff in the Loric Empire that could even be like hidden knowledge. Like one of the main campaign is going to deal with finding hidden secrets within the Shattered Sea that have to do with the ancient past of the Loric Empire. That's what the first sort of thing is. So she could follow a lead from there, and that if you want her to follow a lead to the Shattered Sea to try and find something, that is so in line with what my personal campaign is and what the adventure is currently going to be written about. That's so in line with both of those that fits almost too perfectly. If that's like a reason for her to also,
I think that's really cool. No, I think that's absolutely perfect.
Sure.
Especially like she's at a crossroads. She feels really lost. She doesn't know what to do with her life now. She has these skills, but she doesn't know how to apply them anymore, or an entirely new. Like I think that's perfect.
Before the Shattered Sea, Nyx was an empire called the Loric Empire. They were the most gifted spellcasters on the planet, and they blew themselves up. That's why the Shattered Sea is the Shattered Sea. Basically, what they tried to do is they tried to create because they used arcane magic, which sort of pulled from the ley lines, which were these big streams of magic that wrap through the planet, as most ley lines are. But what they tried to do is they tried to dig underneath their kingdom into the ley line itself, and they wanted to do two things. They wanted to tap into the ley line. They wanted to cast 3 spells: a crystallization spell to crystallize pure magic into like basically magic batteries that they could use.
You want to make mana stones.
Yeah, because those don't really exist in the world. So they're like, if we can cast a fireball that's this big, imagine if we could cast a fireball and like just juice up on a magic stone, right? So they want to do that. So they want to crystallize magic from the ley line. They wanted to have an anti-gravity spell to raise the crystals up from the ley line to float up into like a chamber. They could collect them all and do that. And they succeeded at that. The problem is that they tapped into a ley line, which is the equivalent of cutting into a fire hose. And they blew themselves the fuck up. And they blew up their entire island nation, whatever, and this giant crater now remains. The spell worked though. So the crystallized magic has this anti-gravitational magic embedded into the sky shards that embed themselves into the land and some of the wildlife and stuff, like fishes that can float and stuff. And so now there's all these floating islands around the Shattered Sea. So
That's really cool.
part of then the Loric storyline is that, you know, the Sky Knights were away on campaign because they were not only they were the superpower. They weren't just the best magic casters. They had the best army, the best of everything. Their army was away, and when their army comes back, they're like the head of the army was basically always saying, like, these casters, like, we're gonna destroy ourselves one day. We are not meant for this power. And he goes away on campaign and comes back, and he's like, well,
like, I told you so.
Exactly. He's so mad, dude. He's so butthurt about it. Then the army dissolves. Some of them become mercenaries, like really elite mercenaries in the world. Some of them remain to protect the people that are still, because 95% of the people in the Shattered Sea died, but some people remain. And so the knights are like, well, it's our responsibility to still kind of protect. And so the Sky Knights of the Eldarian are still there. They're the ones that you know, I've drawn the Sky Knights before. I don't know if I have an image of them, but part of that order, part of the order who were like the super elite soldiers, like the Imperial Guard, the super fancy ones. The like general, the head of the army basically said, your service isn't done. I have a mission for you. And so it was his goal to say, we are going to purge the world of every single record of our knowledge on magic usage and cast spell casting forever. And so they created this crusade to like go through the world, like finding scrolls and parchments within the Shattered Sea and also abroad, if like something was gifted to another noble, but how they cast their spells. And so they destroyed everything, and they basically tried to destroy all this knowledge. The problem is they couldn't destroy everything, so some things that were like magic tablets you couldn't destroy, they hid away somewhere, and people don't know where it is yet entirely. But the Astral Sages recently in my campaign found that the old Eldarians, before the Shattered Sea was destroyed, were using Astral Sage magic at an advanced level. This was a time when Astral Sages were supposed to be casting like shaman spells, like make rain come, not like advanced like spell casting like it is today. And so it suggests a difference in history where sages at some point in time, like, we are not the first lineage of Astral Sages. What we know right now, Astral Sages already figured out at some point in time. So if they figured out more than we know, maybe there's some other like crazy shit there. So there could be references that this knight would have to this like forgotten legacy of sage magic that Runa would have found in the journal. Like references of like, oh, I went to this rune site here in like the capital city, and she's like, what? Wasn't that the capital city of the Loric Empire? And around this time, like, they didn't have sages. What? But this is like talking about a really powerful spell. Like, holy shit! Wait, what? You know? So I think that'd be a great way to tie it in, because then you're tying in Runa's reasons for why she's adventuring to that mystery, which is a big mystery right now. So the Dragon's Claim might have been just a guild to facilitate some of her adventures then.
Yeah. And then she ends up like really liking the organization and the because I assume it seems to be very like, hey, you do you, very hush, but it reminds me a lot of Fairy Tale in ways that I really like.
So I'll tell you what I sort of told the players the other day is their vibe of the guild that they got after a little while is that the guild was kind of like the neighborhood adventuring guild. You know, they're sort of an official like system to distribute quests where somebody will submit a quest to like the main sort of like organization, the main bureau of quests, or haven't figured out how it's organized. But then those quests will all go to the large adventurers guilds. So like there's a beast out here, I'm gonna submit it here, and it's gonna go to all the big like guilds that are part of this whole whatever. So the smaller guilds won't get the big fancy quests. They'll be given more like individual quests. Like someone will come to the guild to give them a quest, or like they'll be like, they're part of this network, but like somebody will submit a quest so they don't just like require it to go to a big guild. They're like, whatever, maybe anyone can do this. I'll submit to all the small guilds as well. Yeah. So the kind of quest the Dragon's Claim get is not like this the best, the greatest, the biggest. They're all like level 1 and 2 quests. Go kill this, go find this thing, you know? So it is really like a neighborhood adventures guild for like the group of 17-year-olds that decides they want to go off and find some glory and go kill some rats in a sewer or whatever first.
Oh yeah.
So it has that vibe, but once members who are like basically player characters who are higher level characters in this world, in this guild, will find that the Dragon's Claim is a place where Endrick facilitates very, very high level quests for very important people that don't want it to be well known as like this like. So I'll spoil the very first adventure because we're doing it Horizons episode 0 that I'm doing it as the test, right? The play test to show I can make an adventure. But when I actually kickstart an adventure, like do a proper episode 1, that adventure is going to start by Yerna Aldresh, the tiefling sorceress that I've done. That's like one of the biggest in the world. Basically coming to Endrick and saying, I need someone to do some shit around the city and no one can know that I'm involved and no one can know that people are sniffing this around. So I need like, I can't send like
discreet.
Yeah, I can't send well-known established adventurers to do this, but I need people I can trust. And so she trusts Endrick, and then Endrick asks you, the player character, and that's how you start your first adventure in the world at level 3 if you don't go through the Horizon pathway. So Runa would definitely have this sense after a while that things happen at the Dragon's Claim, and most importantly that she's safe there. That Endrick and Eldara are not just like a humble couple that run this little derpy adventures guild, that there's like Alara's like a substantial paladin. She's like a 14th level paladin. And Endrick never really like, you know, showcases that he's this fighter, but he's like a 14th level fighter, you know, and that's like a big deal in the world considering people don't often hit level 15 or any of that, like 15 to 20. So that could be a reason why Runa wanted to stay there. It's because she's like, oh, this is a good base of operations for me, you know?
I also like the idea of like, especially with that like hidden like thing existing for the Dragon's Claim being like her like collecting of things, kind of, like it fills a niche that is also needed within a community like that.
Right. So as she's collecting artifacts and stuff, no one's going to really be batting an eye when she brings some stuff in the guild hall, you know. Also,
it's a really good cover and also just who she is as a person.
Yeah. And their pancakes are really good, man. Every weekend, Endrick makes pancakes. Weirdly, all day, not for breakfast. You'd think he'd stop at breakfast, but pancakes for lunch as well. It's kind of unsettling. Then you get used to it. It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. One part gremlin, one part hero, out to save the world.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Okay. Cool.
They've got to be fallible.
So is there anything that you want to, now that you have the basics, we have the basic, I want to help you make the basic framework of what Runa's story is to progress her through the world so that you have attachment points in the world. You know where you're from, not specifically, we don't have it written on a map yet, but you know where you're from, you know how it interacts with the world, you know where you learned your stuff, you know why you are the exception to Astral Knights in general. Is there any other backstory stuff that you want to sort of like put in here, ideas that you want to insert now within this framework that I should know about ahead of time so that we can sort of contextualize the game based on that? You know?
I mean, we could, but I kind of like, I feel like this is very much like a play it by ear kind of thing. And so I'm very happy to lean into that. And if things pop up as we go, to kind of like bring it up and see what you think.
Perfect. I love that. The Ella Blackwood style of D&D. You know.
Like I can definitely do that. It's just gonna like I'm gonna have to sit here and like think about it for a minute. And
well, it's
that's
fine.
Content.
No, I was wondering if you just had anything that you were like that you were hoping when I said, hey, do you want to come talk about this on stream? Which thanks for hanging out with me today. Was there anything that you wanted to sort of like try and bring to it, or anything, a story you wanted to try and tell that you're like, let me figure out if this is gonna work, and then I want to tell this story as well? Or have you kind of gotten that
really
already?
Hit all the points that I think the only thing that I'm still unsure about is like we know where she ends up like at the end, and like we had our little like off the cuff kind of like random adventure thing when you joined me on my stream a few months ago. So like I don't know like where she falls in like the timeline, like where our adventure starts in her timeline is the only thing that I don't know about yet.
Right. Okay. Timeline is difficult because I don't have an official timeline right now.
It doesn't have to be official. I just mean like within her story or whatever. Like it doesn't have to fit within the greater things. Because really you can insert her whenever, as long as the endpoint matches up with your game.
Let's say pretty early. Okay. Because where I kind of want her to end in her story is at a point, if she fucking survives, bro, I'm willing to
don't you dare.
Okay, I'm not doing it. I take it back.
I'm sorry. I think about
Thank you.
Okay. Where she ends in her story is where I want people to be able to go meet her. So when I write the quest of like for Runa, and when you can go to the Dragon's Claim, and under the things that are in the dragon, like interests, curiosities, and oddities, and interesting people in the Dragon's Claim, Runa's going to be on that list. You know, of like cool stuff that you can go trade with her, or just like trinkets and shit like that, or information you can get from her, or a quest you can do for her, or the quest to go find her, whatever it is. I want her to be more established, so to at least be further along in her adventure, because I want her to have more of a sense of like, I'm thinking about this from like the 5-10 year perspectives. So like imagine Eldara is this big famous thing, everybody wants to play it. Matt Mercer's like, oh my god, Evan, you're the best. Fuck D&D, we're gonna play Eldara, you know, whatever. Like you know, I'm thinking about like where's the best position for each of these NPCs to be accessible. Like what is their experience up to the point where they're written in as accessible. I think Runa having a little bit more of the adventure under her belt, you know, a little bit more understanding and going through a couple things in the Shattered Sea to gain a good knowledge of the Shattered Sea.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy to say that she hasn't been on her adventure for very long at all. She got her spear, read the journal, maybe found some other stuff in there. Like I imagine almost like maybe it's like a hideout, like workshop kind of place. Like you almost like walk into like Da Vinci's workshop kind of vibes. You know, it's all the old original Knight and Astral Sage stuff, like out of date, you know, astral atlases and things like that, and like tomes and whatever. She finds the spear and reads the journal and is just like, well, now I have direction. Like, I'm going that
Very
way,
much so, yeah.
you know, and she can go and pursue that. So at this point, she would have gotten to the Shattered Sea, somehow found the Dragon's Claim, decided this is a great place to sort of start. And now she's kind of ready to like go off and pursue this journalistic, you know, entry or whatever, and this quest. And that's a great place to start next week.
How do you feel about time skips in your D&D games? Because like I like the idea of like playing it to where like she knows like the people, so like enough to be like we're friends now, but also I like the idea of like getting to play out like joining the Dragon's Claim as well.
Okay, I mean, I think time skips are fine. I'm completely. Also, there's if you want to have her arrive at the Shattered Sea, you know, that's her.
Either one, like that's up to you. I just think that would be like a cool idea, and especially for like your stream to like get to see kind of like what that looks like for people.
No, I'm totally down with that. I was just thinking maybe you'd want to jump more into the like meat of the adventure sooner. Which
I'm a side quest loving bitch.
I'm super happy to have you go get off the boat in Grand Crest. Super happy for that to be okay. Cool.
I have a hard time with committing to things, and I think both of those ideas are very interesting.
Sure.
Which is why I brought up time skips.
No, for time skips, I think time skips are great. I actually don't have a problem with them in my D&D game. I think that they have to be. A game with them. So like I time skip actually quite a bit in a couple days to a couple weeks. Like I'll say, because I feel okay. This
would be like a couple months then.
Yeah, which is fine. But like I have, but if we're starting at you getting off the boat, I actually don't think that there's much of a time skip we need to do. But don't worry about that. Okay. So I always like to do this thing in D&D where I will tell the players like, okay, you brought back the thing. The person is like, I got to look at this. Before we know what to do or where to go or who to find or whatever, I'm gonna need a couple of weeks or like a week or like let's say like a week, 7 days. So hang tight and I will come talk to you. I'll meet you in the inn on the 7th day, you know, next whatever our fantasy word for week is, because you can't have the word week or month in your fantasy game either, or otherwise you're breaking my immersion.
You didn't break my immersion.
So I'm fine with doing. I like doing this, and then what I like to do is I like to prompt the players and say, "So what do you do during this time?" And I don't give them a chance to like go RP it out, like, "Oh, well, I'm gonna wake up on the first day and I'm gonna go downstairs and get breakfast." Like I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for just like, what does your character do in the city? You have downtime. Like, what do you do? Do you go out? You're like, fuck this, I can't stay still, so I'm gonna go on a little like side quest. I'm gonna go find the easiest quest, rip it off the Adventures Guild board, and go do it on my own. You know, you go kill a zombie or something like that, or do you like practice your musical instrument or like learn how to cook or go help people build something? Like I love doing that because people reveal so much more about their character when they don't feel like they like, it's almost like they get to be greedy.
It's like, I'm going to give you an opportunity to say you did something cool or pursued something or gained something without making you go through the actual like RP or skill checks or whatever of that, obviously within reason. You're not like, oh, I started a business and sold at the end of the week for 100 gold. It's like, okay, yeah.
It's like I learned 3 languages this week.
Chill, you know. But I think it's really cool. Players often reward that with like a really cool story of what they do, and they already start thinking about it, and so it's really natural. It's really like honest what the players decide. They're like, oh, what would I do? And they're not trying to optimize or power game. They're like, I don't know, I'd probably like, I like that garden, like I'm gonna go like, I don't know, can I learn how to do botany and gardening and stuff? It's like, sure, man. And that's like a cool thing that you wouldn't have done in your adventure otherwise. So
I think that kind of stuff is really cool. I've had DMs that will start with that and then be like, oh yeah, that's really interesting. Because like or maybe it's just because like a lot of times mine are like, I want to immerse myself in the community and see like what are like the local stories or things like that. So then that will oftentimes turn into an RP thing. But it doesn't encapsulate. What's the word?
Encompass?
Encapsulate? You know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean.
Fuck it, I'm committing to it. That will encapsulate the whole kind of like vibe of like this area, and like so you'll get like a snippet of it like in character, and then the rest of it is like I guess exposition or whatever.
Yeah, I've had players like start orphanages, and players like train the town militia so they're safe when they leave the city. That's like all sorts of cool stuff. Yeah, it's awesome. I had a player work at a bookstore for a week, which was really fun. And then I usually give players rewards for this at the end of it. I'm like, okay, at the end of the week, like the bookstore owner gives you this like dusty old tome they thought that, you know, deserved to be on an adventure. And it's like, that's a plot thing that they get to do later on. It's cool. So yeah, I love that stuff. I like time skips. I just think time skips can't be so long that your adventure is paused if you're in a party particularly. Because it's like, okay, well, the researchers or like imagine the king says, thank you for saving this thing. We need you to come march on the evil vampire with us. We will send our army to the base and like fight the thrall village while you're going to go up and fight the castle. I need till spring to organize our army, and we march through the summer. So you have 6 months to like chill. I find that's sometimes a bit too long because sometimes players will be like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go home. And it's like, that's like pretty far away. Right? It does, absolutely. But what I found is less like, for some reason, people are more creative in my experience with what do you do in a week than what do you do in 6 months. I don't know why that is either.
I think that's because people don't want to come up with something that is so important that they would rather get to role play.
Oh, that's true. That's a good point.
Because 6 months, you can do a lot with 6 months. And so the idea of
you
like,
can, but instance, not if you're a streamer.
True. Stop. That's rude.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. It's like, it's almost like overwhelming or ambitious or whatever, you know, where you're like,
hey, I really want to do this thing, but like, I think that it would be cooler if like I actually get to see the payoff that comes from this kind of a thing.
Right. You're like, especially I went on a really cool adventure, man.
Or like if you're like, hey, like there's this like where we have like our keep or whatever, if you're granted a keep, like there's a small village, like I want to invest in the village and seeing like how much I can like help like train people or like help like grab like get people from other like towns or whatever to move to really build my little like village that's right close by. And seeing like how like that could have a pretty large payoff. But if you're just like, hey, this is what I do, it kind of like minimizes the effects of that, I think. Whereas doing it for something really small maximizes those effects.
I don't know. I just gotten better results from shorter time spans, but I've never tried is a really long time skip, like 5-6 years. Like, tell me a story. Like, write me a story. Scary. It kind of does, because it's almost like, oh, I can't screw this up. Like, this is like a chunk of my life. Like, what did I do for this chunk in the middle of my D&D game? So
just play an elf. You're fine.
Yeah, I sat in my wizard's tower and I looked at tentacle hentai every day for 2,000 days.
5 years, and I am better for it.
I have seen the abyss, and now I can no longer be feared, and all my defenses are +10. So I went to 4chan for 3 weeks, and now I cannot be charmed, and now the abyss is afraid of me. I have an aura of fear for all abyssals now. Yeah. Yeah, I like time skips. They're good if they're done like that. So we could do a little time skip if you want. If there's also if there's anything you want to ever accomplish, I try and my players very rarely ever think of this, and I'm not saying it's because of them. It's because I like sometimes don't give them maybe the space to think about it. And I try and prompt them, but sometimes I also invite my players if they ever say like, hey, we want to do this kind of dumb thing, so like can we like spend a week doing that, you know? And they don't necessarily need to RP it out, but it's gonna take days, and they don't want to RP it out. It's like sometimes for shopping, I'll have you like, okay, you enter the store and you see this, and hail champion,
especially like if it's shopkeepers that like know and aren't like super down with. And
then sometimes I'm like, okay, you go to the market, what are you looking for? Great, you find that and you buy it. You know, I try and mix that up a little bit. But like my players ever do feel like that. Occasionally they'll say this, where they'll say like, hey, you know, we kind of want to like, I don't know, like build a wall here so that the guild is no longer, or so the city no longer gets overrun by, you know, zombies from this direction where the crypt was that we cleansed and still has zombies. So like, can we do that? Can we just like go find materials and source them, and then like find some masons and build it like a keep or something, or a watchtower or whatever it is? And like, that's cool when players want to do that, you know? So if there's ever a time when you're like, oh man, you know, I'd probably want to spend a week doing this in game, that's also something that you can always say. And like,
I think that's really a lot of the current games I've been playing are all very like there's a time crunch. Like we have like there's a countdown, so I'm really excited to kind of get to play something that doesn't necessarily have that, at least like for the beginning. It's just like, cool, let's go explore. I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of value to that, to having like oh shit, it's on. Especially, I think it's a good way to also, sometimes you have this awkward, I think a lot of DMs can relate to this, but there's sometimes this awkward transition between like, you've been given a quest that has a relatable, accessible like reward, like, hey, we need someone to empty the crypt, there's zombies coming out there, just stop it. From that to then, I found the relic, oh no, this is some big deal, I gotta go talk to the paladins about that. That transition from like you're being paid to do a little intro quest to now we're going on the grand adventure is sometimes a little awkward to like facilitate in a D&D game, you know?
Yeah, because you lose a lot of that getting to be a silly guy, because it's like, oh wait, maybe I'm not playing this right. Maybe I'm a bad adventurer who's ignoring their quest, kind of a thing.
Yeah,
so it's really hard to balance.
A time crunch is good for that sometimes, though. You know, where it's like,
I can definitely see it.
You find the thing, and you also find a journal, and journal says that we will on the 7th day of the 4th moon we shall invade the main city through all the crypts within the sewers, and you're like, oh my god, that's in a week. Oh, we got to take this thing, go to whatever. And that's a good way to sort of facilitate that transition from like, we've been paid to come here to get enter the crypt, to now we're going on our adventure. But
something like that actually creates, once you've like helped like the city at the end of it, you get to go back down to being the silly little guy. Like it's not something like it builds on top of it, building on top of it, building on top of it, so that you're just like perpetually in this crunch, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a really interesting way to play a game. It's just the kind of games that I've been in for the last few whiles. So it's exciting to get to switch it up, I think. Or at least for me.
Yeah.
Don't laugh at the way I stumble over words. I see you.
I wasn't laughing at that. I was just thinking that sometimes I like shit talk your game can't be too open world, but then I always really like to run like I really like D&D that doesn't always have the highest stakes. Like you're not always saving the world. Sometimes you're doing like there are other quests to go do a cool thing that eventually I do like a story as you level up to transition into like the stakes are higher. It's just like cooler.
Yeah, I agree.
But I love early D&D, man. I love like I love sitting in. I'm not afraid to sit in early D&D and low level D&D for like a while. It's like go empty the dungeon, go kill the goblins, go save the noble or whatever, and go spend a couple weeks or like even a year playing in IRL. You know, doing that kind of fun stuff, because I think to me that's where I'm happiest in D&D. I don't know why. Like maybe I'm just afraid of reading stories or some shit. But
I think it's the same reason why slice of life anime has got so popular recently. But that's a bit dystopian, so we don't have to go there.
Yeah. It's like, bro, can I just start a farm? Like, can we just start a farm somewhere? I just want to like have some like pretty elf girls come to my farm and like, you know, start growing apples or some shit, and I'll make a big farmhouse for everybody, and I'll go
I don't know,
Like,
kill some
can
goblins.
we just live an idyllic life where we don't have to worry about being able to survive from paycheck to paycheck? Yeah.
No, no one. The king doesn't come by and just say, "Oh, you made 100 gold last month." Okay, well,
Taxes are too high.
sorry, man. I'm gonna take 30 of your gold because I'm the king, bitch. And you're like, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Mhm.
So,
But no, I think that it's really exciting, and they're very fun ways of playing this game, and I'm excited.
okay, cool. And
I
then
like it.
Ella said she wants to come play once in a while.
I would love to get to play with Ella.
If she can jump in here or there for like a little, and so this is part of kind of almost like it's almost the West Marches style of things where your quests are sometimes. I like to run games where the quests are episodic. You can pick them up each, but they all have to do with something greater. So it could be very easily like you get back to the guild and you can get this leader on whatever you decide happens. Then Ella's like, oh, I'll come with that. So Ella needs to make a character that she can interact with the game. I think she might show up on her Astral Sage Scarlet. That'd be cool if you guys had a sage and a knight.
That'll be fun.
And then I also have art for it already, and she stopped playing that character anyway. So that art's just sitting there, not doing anything. And I don't know if I have time to make more art for Ella. I gotta listen, fishy. Listen, I gotta start accepting commissions here. I can't just keep making art for Ella. Like I gotta get paid for this stuff I do once in a while. We can't let Ella make any new characters.
Art for Ella.
It's not even that I need people to ask me for commissions. I got plenty. I just need Ella to stop fucking making characters, okay? So I can actually accept more commissions and stop drawing pretty girls for her. I just need someone to ask me to draw male.
Pretty girls for other people too.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
We love a good booba window in this house. I'm just gonna say.
That actually, hold on. All this now works out for more why Runa looks like she does and not like an astral knight. And all the pressure's just off of me now because now I'm designing culturally.
Oh my god, Scarlet was the one who like took her in and was like, hey, this is how we fashion.
No. Oh
yes.
Man. Oh,
this is why they are the way they are.
No.
Girly Pop's
Scarlet
going shopping episode win.
No, I can't do it. I can't do it. Oh, God, then people are gonna make like in 20 years they're gonna make like a weird like shopping simulator like Runa and Scarlet game or whatever, at the Dragon's Claim.
So flattering. Can you imagine?
God, I can't do it. Okay, I'm trying to think of what else on my end.
What kind of open world games do you like to play? Because like I think open world is really interesting, but it also gives me anxiety of the like, hey, you better talk to everybody real quick because if you waste too much time, these quests are going away, and that just makes me sad.
No, I mean, all of the games that I run, I think they start pretty open, and because I find there's a lot of believability in the story of this sort of adventure, like pursuing what they would normally be pursuing and then finding that the whole world is kind of opened up to them in a way.
Yeah.
As opposed to the sort of the chosen one, I've been selected to go from, my farm to Mos Eisley and whatever. So for open world, I don't want it to ever feel like you're missing out on anything, because that's, to me, it's not like a lot of what I try and do in D&D is almost like avoid anxiety.
Yeah, I think it makes it for a more believable world, but I personally just don't like the idea that like I've spent too much time enjoying what was put in front of me that I don't get to see what I didn't make it to quick enough.
Right. Well, for your game, you are going to. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but you are going to be the mostly pursuing this legacy, so you can kind of pursue it at your own pace, right? For the beginning, at the very beginning. So there's not like Runa when she gets to the Dragon's Claim Guild. The journal basically doesn't have anything of impending darkness. It's just like there's a really interesting thing over here that I want to kind of go try and find and see if the Shattered Sea still has this thing in it or whatever. So
because it might not, because like you said, like before, Island just got processed for their shit and then yeeted into the abyss, so it might be gone. Yep,
but there's kind of fingerprints of it, and I don't know. I really like that kind of a story, like trying to find secrets of the past.
is she going to be aware of the fact that the journal is going to have information in it that's just not really known?
She would know, and I was going to ask you about that. How would she handle that? Like,
she would probably be kind of secretive of the journal then itself. Maybe she would have to figure out if she can trust, like, I guess, like, Indrik first before she would be willing to, like, pull out the journal, like, let them look at it or anything.
right.
So then it becomes a question of, like, how do they then find that level of trust with each other?
Yes, that's fair. But basically, she wouldn't have any. If she found this like old information, there wouldn't be a particularly strong desire for her to like go to the established orders and be like, "Hey, you guys should like take a look at this shit," you know.
I would say
more
after
like
her experience with the knights, probably not. Like she would probably keep it to herself and then go explore stuff. And then once she had found like some kind of like proof of this not being like the ravings of a person who like was like losing their mind or something, who like used to be a knight or something, like showing, because like you don't know, maybe they're a person who was a knight and then in their old age they go fucking senile. Like there's no way of like being able to know any of that. So once she found some like solid like proof of it like existing in the world, she would be much more open to like going and presenting it to somebody, because
Okay.
in her mind she already has a bad reputation. So if she then goes, brings this journal, and it turns all to just be phooey, she's like ruining her last chance to like have any sort of like decent standing within like a higher magic society.
she's the useless goddess. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Cool. Is there going to be a motivation, you think, to earn a little bit of respect from the orders, or do you think she doesn't care? Because I will say though that the rigidity of the knights does not reflect a bad relationship that she would have with the sages. The sages wouldn't judge her or have any negative opinion of her, and a lot of them, like at the orders, like there might be something like, oh, a failed knight or whatever, but there's not really you know, in general there wouldn't be any animosity. She could walk into a sage temple and say what's up and be just as welcome as any other astral sage, because she's, you know, still a practitioner. I mean, up until the age of like what age do you want her to be, and about what age did you want her to sort of leave her home to join the knights? Do you want this to be very like, I was 5 years old and got taken by the knights and I don't know who I am?
No,
or I was
want
like,
her to have, like
16, 17, or what?
Yeah, probably like closer to like somewhere between like 14 and 16.
So she knew who
probably.
she was before she joined the knights.
Yeah, then joining the knights was very much like her way of getting to try to step out into the world and see more than just the plane she'd always known, type of thing.
So what, she'd be like in her like mid to late 20s by now, I suppose?
Yeah, probably.
That makes sense time-wise, chronologically. Yeah, so she still has like years of being one of these like independent sages, part of these like little circles of cultures, you know.
Just
So
are there any like, not necessarily animosity, but like, you know, like how sometimes groups or whatever would be like, oh yeah, that's like the fringe groups, like they're like, yeah, they know some shit, but like we know way more, kind of like thing between the grand orders and the circles.
there's definitely individuals like that in the order, but leadership and general. So there was a great like threat for the astral sages at a certain point in time in history. There was a great threat that required and merited the necessity of the knights forming. So the knight that she's sort of getting her spear from would likely be a sage that basically took up this like weapon that like a bunch of high level sages at different orders would have come together and say like, hey, I have this idea, let's figure out how, if we can make this astral, I have this idea for this, like how to become a defender, but like I need a good steel, and it's not gonna like, so they like made astral steel, and that's where this weapon would have come from. And so they would have been an astral sage first and foremost, before they became like practicing the knight's arts, which then evolved into the knights. So for the sages,
I like the idea of trying to get back to that astral sage kind of roots.
Yeah, so there would have been a sense of like the sages have to kind of stick together, you know. And so whether or not you are part of one of the grand orders or you are part of an individual tradition, the sages were initially part of this original like tradition, but like some orders or some like sage whatever's, they might have access to a certain spell. Like they might know how to do some cool spell that like, you know, can, let's just say like do some like light druidic magic. Like maybe it can grow like you have your rune sight and you cast your spell with all your other sages, and then like things would like grow really well around you, and you could like create these sites and like almost like grow life back into the realm. So like that might not be a spell known by the orders. They might not know how to do that. And so if you're part of that circle, you guys might guard your magic because it's part of your tradition. So there would be from a level of like, there'd be like from an orders perspective, there'd be kind of like a cool respect, like, oh, what cool things do you guys know? You know?
Okay, so more like interest, less like you guys are backwoods animosity type thing then.
Some might see that if they're like, oh, you guys are still using like old like whatever, like we have the fanciest like newest whatever. But I think sentiment overall, because definitely the thing that I sort of model sentiment off is the Star Speaker, who is the person who's kind of like in charge of the orders, and thus kind of like in charge of all the sages. And currently she has very much a positive relationship with small circles and orders and organizations besides just the 5 large ones. So like when she calls for pilgrimage and stuff like that, one of the biggest things she's doing is saying that it's an exchange of information. So she's making available their temples and sending out an invitation to all these orders and circles to come share what they know. But part of the Astral Sage tradition is that it was never about being part of a large order and organization. It was always about honoring the sages of your tribe, of your city, of your whatever. And the orders were basically set up as a place, a refuge away from like the prying greed and ambition of like the local lord who's like, I'm gonna grab these sages and you're all gonna like go to war and launch and do this for me. And so sages that didn't want to do that, they're like, I just want to like it's almost like from a religious element. They're like, I'm just like a monk, I'm gonna do stuff here for myself and like worship the stars and shit. The orders were a place where they could go to and be protected. So there are still places that, but the default is almost in some way for everyone to be part of these small traditions that then would like meet and they'd exchange ideas and talk away from all of the other conflict of the world. So
it would probably be like a misplaced like lack of trust and anxieties about like her experience being carried over towards others, even though it kind of goes against what she knows that they're probably going to do, but just being afraid that she's wrong. And so feeling like she has to prove any like big thing that she would bring to them after it having already gone wrong once.
So I'm gonna ask you,
kind of probably feeling like this is her last chance.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you a question that I would normally ask you in game sometimes.
Okay.
How much of a history buff is Runa? Does she know like at least does she study history? Does she know at least a little bit about, because like the knights train, like they say it's important to know, or is she just like hey, that's a butterfly, just a fart in the wind?
No, I think, which is very weird because like I am not a history person. I think that she would be, but not in like when you say the word history buff, I have a very specific like archetype idea that comes in mind, but probably not necessarily like when you think like the World War II history buff, like not like that.
Where an overweight like man in a sweater vest, you know, quoting
I mean, like
dates,
not the kind of person who like knows like every date for everything and like every like caliber of gun that was issued when from this period to this period by this group, like not that kind of history buff, but like the kind that loves like the story of the world and then would like latch on to like different like, oh hey, this person did this really interesting thing during this and like, so that's how she would like place things on a timeline, was like, oh yeah, I liked this person, they did this during this time, they were a part of like this kind of a group,
cultures, like, anthropology,
like from a very like anthropological point rather than a history point.
So
it is history because it's the past, but more
so
like
then
people and stories.
Yes. Okay, cool, that helps. So I'll give you this small piece of information then, and you can sort of figure out if that motivates you or not. Runa would absolutely know that the Aldarians blew themselves the fuck up. And she would absolutely know how dangerous they were and how they were a lesson in like not playing at God. And she would understand that when this journal is referring to Aldarian practices of astral magics, that could pose great power or danger.
Okay, then yeah, she definitely wouldn't want to potentially hand somebody the directions for how to find that then.
If there's a part of her that says like, I need to see this mystery, but also maybe it needs to be hidden. Like there might be responsibility in her motivations behind that then as well.
Yeah, she's definitely more good aligned, like definitely wanting to help out, like wanting to get to know like the local peoples, wanting to get to know like all of those kinds of things so that she can form those attachments and then can understand like others better. And like, so I can definitely see where she's going to come to like the Shattered Sea like with like those intentions in mind, like juxtaposed with like thinking that this is a thing she needs to keep a secret. So maybe she's hoping that she can find like capable people who she would be able to trust with like this kind of thing, since she is an outsider. She doesn't understand how like things work on a political or a behind the scenes political kind of thing. So her seeking out those kinds of connections makes a lot of sense.
How comfortable is Runa being an outsider?
I think it's one of those things where if she's probably going to be uncomfortable with it, but she's not really going to like let it get to her in a way that she shows other people. But she's definitely going to be trying really hard to overcome that like internal awkwardness, because she just wants to play it off like, hey, everything's fine. Like, yeah, I don't know shit. It's fine. I know. The closest person I know is 8 billion miles away. It doesn't bother me. I don't feel alone. Like she's going to very much act like, oh, it's fine. It's just a new thing. We're just going on a new adventure.
There would have been a lot of community like sense. Like this in some ways might be the first time she's like on her own, because like these small, I imagine these small like, and you can kind of tell me how this place works. I don't need to like own the design by this place. You can kind of tell me how you want this like dog folk society to work. But I imagine if they're kind of isolated, they'd be pretty close knit because they're like a smaller group, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. They're being like I don't know how big like this plains area is, but like if it's pretty substantial, maybe it being more like a collection of villages that like you could like take a day and you could go to like the neighboring village type of a thing.
Sure, it's the valley, right?
Yeah, like they tend to be like more smaller communities. They're like surrounded by like, I don't know, like whatever they grow or whatever. But yeah, like small, very like tight knit kind of communities that then will come together for whatever village is more centrally located for like more like whenever somebody gets married, like small enough that like somebody getting married is like something that all of the villages come together for.
I like that. That's really cool, because like, okay, I know it's dumb, but it's kind of like a pack, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they would have formed, honestly, that would work because they would have formed as with a strong pack mentality, you know, being around this wild god.
There's like a big like dog wolf spirit or whatever like within the valley then that they like have a connection to. Oh, so, wait, I thought you said that's how like the animal people form.
But so I did, and it is it's a mystery that is kind of, so the wild gods are not present anymore.
Oh, they left. Okay, got it.
They left or you left, and this is a big plot thing for later in the adventure. You and I can talk about it off stream actually, but because you should. I mean, I don't know, it's a cool story, bro. But I don't want to ruin anything for anyone who wants to play through the adventures properly. But the wild gods are not present, so. And then I imagine Runa coming from that sort of community, that kind of pack, like we're all tight, we got our backs, going straight into the Astral Knights is like. When you come into the Astral Knights, like you're like your family. Like you come in, they're like, you're one of us. Like everyone in this place will die for you, you know, and hopefully you do the same.
She's very lonely, but she's going to try very hard not to show it until she gets close with somebody.
Okay, so she might. Okay, so she's okay, but she's okay being part like out of it and kind of part of.
Yeah, she's very excited for the adventure, but she definitely misses like having. Like that support network and sense of community. So she like once she gets into and is a part of the Dragon's Claim, she's going full like super gung-ho into it.
Okay.
Because she's going to try to like reform that kind of sense of like connection then.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. All right.
I'm so excited.
We're playing next week. We're playing next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Barring nothing weird happens or fishy or I have to not be there, because I'll admit one of the main drivers behind me not wanting to ever do like a D&D show is I don't like all the time streaming with other people, because I like to be respectful of their time and whatnot, and then it becomes an appointment, and once I have that, I'm stressed. So Fishy and I talked about this and we were like, yeah, we'll play, we'll have fun, and if for some reason can't make it or whatever doesn't happen, it's not the biggest deal. I just do my Tuesday stream normally, or I miss the Tuesday because things happen.
Absolutely.
So
like Because like
Yeah.
I'm also looking for a job right now.
Yep.
And like so like I'm super available
So
until that happens.
we're just
so.
chilling. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
And
So we're
if
gonna
it turns out
play.
to be something that we want to do, we can also like make plans for it later.
Mhm.
It's just whatever, it's low stress.
Cool. So we'll play
Mhm.
next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging with me today. It was fun chilling, bro.
I learned so much. I was having a great time.
Yeah, and it was fun because I got to do world building that I wasn't thinking about doing. And this is why I love playing D&D. This is why D&D is a service to world building for me, because like you're asking me questions and needing answers and stuff that is like, oh, how does that work, you know? So thanks for that, and I'm excited. Hopefully a fun next Tuesday when we start the official adventure and see what happens, man. One-on-one D&D. All right.
Will there be like a potential NPC that goes with me, or is it mostly me by myself? That's up to you.
You just gotta play and see what's up. Do you want, well, I suppose, do you want the lone wolf you against the world, or do you like the idea of having someone to bounce ideas off of, or to like maybe act as someone in the world to kind of like, what do you like?
Either of them are very interesting.
Okay.
I think the idea of her becoming close with somebody else who's like a part of the Dragon's Claim is cool. It also allows you to like flesh out other like key members of the Dragon's Claim potentially that could be very interesting.
Cool.
It also allows her to like have more like in-depth conversations with people,
Mhm.
but it also doesn't have to be something that's consistent. It could be like, oh hey, for this quest you're going to be joined by this person necessarily.
Cool.
I'm up for whatever.
All right. Cool.
Yeah,
I got
you were trying to end.
I got some alerts I need to read and stuff. So I don't know if you want to bounce off now, and then I can do that and do my outro, or I don't want to make
I'll
you
be
sit
in
through.
chat either way. So if
Okay.
you want to focus on chatting with people, that sounds good.
Fair enough. All right, then I'm gonna hop off Discord. Thank you, Fishy, for hanging out. Guys, go follow Fishy. Fishy streams like every night, so you can come and hang out with me in the morning. And then if you want to hang out with Fishy and talk to her about the D&D game, especially at night, you can do that.
That would be very fun.
And
we're very cringe. We play with games.
Yeah.
I don't do that.
I don't know anyone who's not following you already, but just in case, like, you should. I recommend it. You know.
I saw a few of my peeps poking in here today. I told them
you?
that I would be hanging.
Oh,
I
shit.
did, yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. All right.
My guys were hanging out. It was fun.
They're all welcome here.
Okay,
All right. Cool.
Bye.
I'm gonna hop to Discord. See ya. GG.
Bye.
Oh man! All right, there's Fishy, guys. Hey. So we are starting our new project, the first official Realms of Eldara D&D game. I'm so excited. I didn't want to do this for a long time because I was like nervous and whatever. And I think Fishy and I talking about it. Fishy has made it very accessible and very fun. The idea of doing this, so I'm very excited to run a game for her and tell a story to you guys. So hopefully you guys enjoy the story. And I don't know. I'll probably have to have alerts off every Tuesday. We'll probably play on Tuesdays. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but we're just gonna have fun and play some D&D. And I don't know if it's gonna be a big long thing or like a short, like 4 or 5 game thing. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what I'm not promising anything. I'm not anticipating. I am here for the adventure like you guys are in some ways. And I haven't run one-on-one D&D in a while, you know. So I'm looking forward to it. Everyone, you really have to figure out what kind of player you have for one-on-one D&D. Some players like choose your own adventure books. They like, all right, so you get to the dungeon, and there's two, you know, you have your bodyguard barbarian with you, and you have your, like, you know, scholar mage, and they're like, should we go through the door or should we try and sneak around? And they both look at you, the one player, and you get to choose your adventure. Some people like to just be like, okay, you get into the middle of town, what do you do? And they just want completely to just like spider crawl all over the walls and, you know, be a fucking Spider-Man, whatever. And we'll feel it out. We'll see what's up. We'll get some chance to do some art. Probably won't be doing any battle maps or anything anytime soon. Maybe later on, but that's a lot of work. And part of this was I needed to not have to commit to doing a ton of work, like outside of running the actual game on Tuesdays. So best of the stream we could potentially reschedule for different time slot if that works better. Low stress, high fun is the key. Yeah, I agree. I'm ready to just chill, just have some fun.
So, I missed a whole bunch of alerts. I apologize. Wait, my alerts actually... They just actually not play? It actually just doesn't show up on my alert thing. What the fuck? Huh. I gotta figure that out then. Shit, I gotta figure out that. Shit, because then I can't see. I have to like wait through everyone. Because I was just gonna like thank everyone who cheered bits and stuff. But I guess thank you, Eldrail. Thank you, Sandex. I saw a couple of subs. I saw Meegs expecting me to thank, or was anticipating me thanking them for being the prime option this month. So I appreciate that. Thanks, Rob, for the sub at tier 2. Thank you guys for all that. I don't know. I'm pretty excited. I'm looking forward to it. Huh, I gotta figure out what my... Oh, and Nix, thank you for the 2 years. I think I said that, but still. Damn, bro, that's... I'm excited. I'm looking forward to this. This is gonna be dope. I don't know. I feel like I just need to jump into things more with projects I want to do for Eldara, and I need to like not worry or overthink. Oh, what was Aduria's shit? I missed the... Fuck, I missed the... So like I can't, my alerts aren't showing up on the left side of my screen, which is bothering me. Oh, wait. I can do it through Twitch. Perfect. The Twitch one shows it. I moved my OBS. So, what was Aduria's? Oh, what is the meta this week? I don't know if Aduria's still here, probably not, but just in case. The meta this week, The meta this week is Siberian Taimen. What the fuck? Is this a fish meta or is this a more specific fish meta? Is this like the salmon meta? Why is it so big? I wish I knew the meta so I could get a proper score. If we're going just general fish, I'm going to give this a... like a 6-8? Like 6-9? Could see up to 7-1, but I'm happy. You know what? Let's do 7-0. It's pretty good. So, thank you, Dory, for that. Thank you, Meegs, Nix, Rob, Oda, Uldrail, Atari, Jacob for the resubs. Thank you, who cheered bits today? Senix and Aduria. I appreciate you guys. Anyway, that's all for stream today. So I hope you guys enjoyed a little bit of a different world building approach for a stream where we're talking about how to do a fish meta. I proposed the Yuan Bao goldfish. The money bread goldfish. Why is its head so puffy? I feel bad for goldfish. I feel bad for goldfish like I feel bad for pugs. You know? It's like when you see a dog that can't, like, breathe properly. Where's he though? God, I hope she didn't pee on the stairs. She was nervous going out this morning, so there were loud vehicles. And then Elle's not home, so I've abandoned her for 4 hours. But either way, we gotta find a name for this campaign actually as well. They are bad at swimming. Yeah, see, exactly. I feel bad for them. We gotta find a name for the campaign. Probably gonna do a title screen thingy for the campaign. I'm not gonna be doing a whole lot of production for this, so I'm not gonna be doing proper music and a proper overlay and all this stuff for the game. We're probably just gonna run it pretty scuffed and just have some fun. But I do want to do a title screen for it, and then that's gonna be dope. So either way, thank you guys for hanging today. Appreciate you. This week's gonna be kind of cool, kind of packed. We're gonna do the Astral Knight Temple art. We're gonna finish maybe Runa before the adventure. Yeah, you're probably right about that. Hope you guys enjoyed your stay. Have a great rest of your day. I will see you tomorrow because I didn't miss a day this week. So it is in fact. Wait, why are my alerts muted still? Damn it, Sam. Thank you for the 100 bits. Wait, Dunkelostis. What the
fuck is that? Is that a fish or a name for the stream? It is a fish. It's not a real fish. It doesn't. It's dead. It's a. Okay. That looks like a piece of armor. That's dope. You know what? Screw it. We'll rate extinct fish. Fuck it. 8-7. That's a good fish. That's an 8-7. Yeah. Either way, I'll see you guys tomorrow. And for those of you who are anticipating the game, I'll see you next week. But until next time, my friends, farewell.